Oh yeah, my name's Allie Drummond. I have a YouTube channel at RealFemSapien. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter by the same handles. I guess at this point, I'm a cultural commentator, and I just talk about various topics that I'm interested in. I think some topics that I find interesting and sometimes helpful would be like red pill content. I also, well, I started a Substack, so that's fun. I'm gonna put girls onto some girl game because apparently we suck. And yeah, you know, I would consider myself socially conservative. Politically conservative, I'm not really sure because I don't think that word means anything these days. So if it ever gets around to meaning something, I'm sure I can redefine myself.
Okay. Okay, before we go farther, shoot, hold on. I gotta fix, my mic is fucking up a little bit. One second, hold on. Okay, I'm here. Okay.
Yeah.
Red pill, dating stuff, girl, game. Why did you reach out to me? What was the, why? What did you see or what? Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm not trying to be mean, but
Be
so I
mean.
saw that you
Hold on. All right, you're on one of the meanest places on the internet, so be mean. Okay, go.
Okay. Well, I saw that you talked to Torsha, and I saw that you talked to Pearl, and I just feel like, I don't know, for some reason I ended up going down the red pill rabbit hole, and I think that I could articulate it better than them. Well,
Oh, you're not even being mean to. You're not even being mean to me. You're being mean to other people. Lame. Okay, go ahead. Articulate it.
Well, no, I don't think I have any bones to pick with you. I think you're actually pretty interesting.
Well, but I'm like super anti-red pill, so we'll see.
Yeah, well, no, I think you might be more masculine than I suspected because I was listening to you on your stream earlier, and you know I was blushing. I was like, oh my god, like he talks how a man would talk. So it was very counter to what I thought, you know, what I was expecting because everyone's like, well, he hates masculinity. I'm like, well, he talks like a man. So there you go. But
Okay.
yeah, no, I'm just trying to. I don't think I want to necessarily advocate for it. It's just there's good stuff in there if you decide to use it for something that's going to benefit you in your life. If you choose to use it for like hedonism, or if you choose to use it for, I'm talking about like red pill theory and content like that. If you choose to use it to blame women for your problems, then obviously that's not going to be helpful for you.
Yeah, I would agree. Well, where do you want to start?
Well, I guess, you know, maybe you could say what you hate about it or what you don't like or what you're anti. I might end up agreeing with you a lot. We'll see.
I think men are more similar to women than they are different, but I think we have some extreme differences that we have to account for, especially when it comes to like dating and sex. I don't prescribe to the whole or subscribe to the whole like evolutionary psychology tells us that women are hunting for resources and men are doing this and blah 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 blah, and it's evil that women are working because it breaks the social order. I don't subscribe to that. I think that male and female social roles are pretty malleable, that like broadly we follow like some rough trends in terms of where men end up and where women end up, but that we have a lot of flexibility in those roles. I don't think that women that work are evil. I don't think men that stay at home are like breaking anything. Yeah, I don't know which are there. Usually when people come to me, it's because we've had like a strong disagreement on something. So, but most of the things that I fight with have to do with like the hedonist red pill shit. And it sounds like if you're against that, that's going to be like the lion's share of what I talk about.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, hedonism isn't good for anybody. I know you're on the very progressive side of things. We were talking about some stuff earlier, and I was like, like my ears. And I was like, it's fine.
Well, like what? Okay, yeah, what things? Yeah, might as well. Because otherwise we're going to sit here nodding at each other like idiots all the time. So
I know. No, I mean, just drug use. I'm like, oh, that's not good for anybody. But I think it's
wait,
natural.
drugs are, how do you not like drugs? Drugs are awesome. Do you drink coffee?
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like,
coffee.
I'm not going to be here to like, oh, well, coffee is just like doing LSD, right? That would be stupid. But I'm saying, like, there are some substances that we take, and they affect the way that we look at the world, we process things, it can affect our mood, and sometimes, like, visiting those places can be fun. I think alcohol was the same way, right? Or are you, like, super anti-alcohol, too?
No, I just think that some people can't handle alcohol. I know I'm one of those people. If I have one drink, I have to have 6. So I think I have that weird genetic predisposition where, you know, there's some chimps out there that will drink themselves to a slumber. And I think that I happen to be one of those people. So I just choose to abstain. I'm also pregnant. So obviously I should not be drinking if I'm pregnant, but alcoholic women do it all the time. I think I'm just not used to people using drugs ethically or with informed consent, I suppose. Because I think there's a Dr. Carl Hart who I would agree with him. I think that it's probably better for everyone if we decriminalize all drugs so that they can be regulated through the FDA. So that way we have less bad batches that, you know, lead to like overdose. And then we also have more education that goes into the drug use. Like, hey, if you take a downer with another downer, you're going to put yourself into respiratory distress or, you know, like cardiac arrest and things like that. So that's my position on it. But I do think that I've seen where my life has improved significantly by trying to live more, I get more moralistic or traditional or what have you. It's hard to even describe it as that because what is traditionalism these days? It's just really benefited my life to not do everything that my brain tells me to do on a whim. Not that you're doing that at all.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that drugs should be looked at as like a life enhancer, not like a depressant avoider. Like if you're using drugs, you're like, oh, I want to have like a little bit of fun right now, and I think a drug would make that really cool. I think that's probably an okay way to utilize it. But if you're like, my life is fucking horrible and I have to use this drug to just like get by or like to escape, then I think that puts you in a really bad spot. And I think a lot of people use drugs as kind of coping mechanisms for day-to-day life rather than just like, oh, I'm going to do this because it seems like a fun thing to do right now. And then I'm going to be done with it and move on because like my life is okay, you know?
Yeah, I think I just disagree with, you know, traditional values on people should try them to see if it makes their relationships more functional. And I know you're very much on the progressive side of things too. I'm not sure, do you consider yourself egalitarian?
I mean, like, doesn't everybody? I feel like it's kind of a worthless word. I mean, I would say yes, of course I do, but I mean, I feel like that's like saying, like, do you see yourself as being like rational or logical? It's like, well, yeah, of course, I'm quite egalitarian, I'm quite rational, but I mean, it depends on what you mean by that, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, so my position on men and women is that they're complements. So I hold a complementarian view. I don't go for the egalitarian bit at all because I think a lot of people push the egalitarianism, but I don't think it's rooted in reality. And I think that every couple is egalitarian until they have a baby, and they start to notice gender differences pretty quickly in that moment in time. So it's cute, but I don't think it's factual to reality. I think men and women are complements. But more so, I just think people should try out some traditional things and see if it functions better for them. Because I know that there's different flavors and different styles of marriage. I think the real testimony to marriage is, are you both happy? Do you both want to have sex with each other? Are your children well-rounded? However you choose to get there, you know, like, that's fine. But I think people really underestimate choosing a complementarian lens for their relationship and having that outlook. Just because I see a lot of dissatisfaction on the woman's side of things when it comes to marriage, and it's because they didn't marry a man that they looked up to, which would require that they marry a masculine man, and there's a lot of issues that come with that.
Okay, I broadly agree with what you're saying, but I imagine that the things you mean when you say some of these things are things I would disagree with, but we'd have to start heading off in one of those directions. Where do you want to go?
We can. It's just hard for me to tell because I know I disagree with you, but I'm a disagreeable woman, but I'm not disagreeable.
Good. Not very feminine, but a very good trait, I think. But go ahead.
Well, I'm 10%. I think I scored 10 percentile in compassion, so that was really interesting. But I'm 92% in politeness, so that's cool.
Okay.
So I would just have to see, you know, what point of views that you have that I feel strongly about. I know that I think feminism, it was all bad. That's what I mean. I know for sure.
You think feminism was all bad?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't think that before, but I've been kind of working to see if that was a lens that I could hold, and I think I got there. We say prior to today.
Couldn't you say arguably that like your existence online as a content creator doing stuff is kind of a little bit feminist in nature?
That would require using the lens that you think that women got what they wanted through women and not through men.
Well, I mean, it was through men and women, right? I mean, we all live together, right?
No, I don't think that. I think that men love us and care about us and gave us a lot of liberties. Like, I don't.
Well, but they didn't just give it, right? Women had to fight for it, right? Like, women's suffrage wasn't just like all men were like, okay, let's do this for women. Like, I think a lot of women were fighting for it too, yeah?
I mean, I think that's what it looks like, but I don't think that that's true. I think good men often address the oppression of bad men. And I think that the good men of society would have always liberated women or chosen to in the West. I think other nations are not there, but we're, I think, the first culture that's post-industrialization. So I just hold the lens that men genuinely, the other half of the population, they genuinely care for us and they do things to liberate us all the time. So that's why I would say feminism, I could say, is all bad because I view it to be more of a female supremacy movement. And I'm Puerto Rican, just FYI. I know I'm on the light skin side of things. It's winter out here. But I don't think Susan B. Anthony did anything for colored women. I know people say that, but I don't agree with that at all. Like, I think she was just concerned about the white woman's right to vote. So it's like really foolish when I go to undergrad and these social science professors want me to champion this white woman, and it's like, why? I don't think I was ever in consideration in her mind.
Okay. Well, let's. Okay. If women hadn't had fought for the right to vote for the women's suffrage movement, do you think men? Well, let's start with here. Do you think men would have given it on the same timetable, or would it have been later, or would it have not happened at all?
I think it would have taken longer. But men had to wait thousands of years to get the right to vote in the first place. Like, we had monarchies prior to, I mean, the democracy that we have today.
Well, men didn't have to wait to get the right to vote. It was poor men that had to wait, right?
Yeah, which would have been most men.
Yeah, but still, it wasn't barred based on sex. It was barred based on class, right? Like, in those cases, like, the aristocratic women didn't get to vote, right? Even though they were higher class women. So I think that the distinction there was drawn on class, not on them being men, right?
Okay.
I feel like in any system where women, or I'm sorry, where there's an oppressor and oppressee, if the oppressee is fighting for things, then the oppressor is necessarily always going to be the one to grant that thing. But I feel like with that philosophical paradigm you set up, that no person can ever fight for anything from an oppressor, because it always, at the end of the day, has to be granted by the oppressee, unless they literally kill all of them, right?
Can you repeat your last two sentences? Because I'm trying to follow. Because oppressor, oppressee, I'm like trying to keep up. I'm like, this is double negative. What?
Sorry. Let's say that you have like a group of people that is owning another group of people, right?
Okay.
It feels like with the logic you've given me, the only way, no matter what happens, if the group of people that's being owned is no longer being owned, then it's just because of the owner group of people decided to change their mind, because they're the only ones with the power to do so.
I wouldn't say that it's a drive to like change their mind. I think it's just gradual, that the goodness of men would have yielded that to begin with, just in due time. I think we want to very much, rush progress and reach it overnight, but that is kind of foolish, really. I mean, we get it, and sometimes it's slow, but I think it would have always happened. Like, I think that men, this is my thing, right? It was important for women to have economic autonomy, and especially prior to a world that didn't have birth control. It was really important, because if you were married and you became a widow and you had all of these children to take care of, but you didn't have access to an education, you didn't have access to decent work, you would have been put immediately in destitution. And that's what happened with the poorhouses or the workhouses that were in London. And they did separate the women from their children. So it's just my opinion. I think that men saw that, and when they were liberated, they liberated women. That's why I think feminism is all bad, because I think it just comes down to female supremacy, especially if you consider like the terrorist roots of it. And it doesn't seem to me that it was about all women. It just seems to me like it was about white women. And I think it continues to be about white women. I think they're very out of touch with these low SES minority women who they try to use to advocate for their points. I think it's disingenuous. I think they don't, I mean, I'm out of the low SES now, but I was born into that. I think they're out of touch with women like us.
Sure, but like, if it was the case that women were, that men were just going to grant these things to women because I guess they really love them and they're nice, why didn't they get it so much sooner?
Well, I would have to look at how hard it was for all men to get the right to vote. It seems like men got the right to vote, I think, from what I can remember, is the 15th Amendment in 1870. And then it seems like women got the right to vote through the 19th Amendment in 1920. But there's lots of caveats to that, like property ownership, race, what have you. I'm sure there's much more detail than that. So from my perspective and my lens, once all men got the right to vote, it wasn't long thereafter that they got or attempted to get women all the right to vote, if that makes sense. I know like the suffragists and the suffragettes were, talking about it, but I mean, I think at the end of the day, men had to say yes.
Well, of course, but then that goes back to what I said before, that like, I feel like with that line of logic, anytime you've got a group of people that is over another group of people, necessarily any progress that underclass makes is always going to be reliant on the upper class saying yes, right? It just has to be by definition, right? Unless they literally kill them all.
No, I think I agree with you, actually, because I'm trying to think about it, because I'm on the love beat lately, where I'm just like, everyone's just so sweet. But yeah, I think that if you see the error of your ways, you are called to change your mind, and that would be a changing of the mind.
Sure.
So,
which
yeah,
I agree with, but I mean,
think,
like, you kind of need somebody to show you the error of your ways, right? That's what I feel like.
I'm just not convinced that there weren't other men having these conversations. I don't think that it was just women out here ranting and raving. I think it was also
No, it was
men
it was
sitting
definitely a
down.
combination of both, right? Like men
Yeah.
helped, like women suffragists wouldn't have worked without men being willing to vote and shit for it, right? But do you think that it's possible that somebody could identify as a feminist and not be like a female supremacist, or like identify as a feminist and not like hate men, I guess, or
Well, yeah, I think most women are born feminists. I mean, I don't even think that, I remember being a lukewarm liberal, not thinking much about my convictions, being 18 and Latina, and just registering as a Democrat because that's just what my culture does. I mean, my parents are still, like, they're very Gen X Democrats, you know, Obama to the day they die. And I remembered being pro-choice because I just thought it was a woman's right. But I didn't, when I thought about if I would do it personally, I had to think more about my convictions on it, and I ended up realizing that I naturally didn't want to ever terminate a pregnancy. And then I started realizing, like, around looking at other women, that I think that that's a lot of their suggestions. I mean, I think that's how they feel too. I think most women don't even want to terminate their pregnancy, but because we're kind of indoctrinated in this feminist, gynocentric society, I think we have a feminist leaning. And I do think that we live in a gynocentric social order. I like 100% believe that.
don't you think it's possible that there might be legitimate reasons why a normal, healthy, of sound mind woman would want to terminate a pregnancy?
Normal, healthy, and sound mind. Normal.
Like not like a brainwash, but like it might just be like, I'm super not ready at this stage of my life to have a child, and it might be better for me to terminate this pregnancy before carrying it to term and seeing what life is like on the other side, basically.
No, I don't think that. I think it often comes down to some form of pathology. I think it can even come down to an IQ. Just from women that I've talked to that have terminated, it's like, I think that women terminate pregnancies not because of all the reasons that the liberal professors want to put on poor brown women. I think women terminate pregnancy because they don't want that man's baby, because I've seen women have babies that they couldn't afford, like on purpose. I think that researchers are just out of touch, and they're trying to use the bottom, lower class to justify the whole. I don't think that makes sense. But I do think that it comes down to like a pathological problem for the most part, or like, yeah, I would say it's probably some brainwashing too, and then an IQ thing. They just don't have the intelligence to comprehend the actions that they're committing, basically. Because I don't view abortion. Can I say abortion on here?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. YouTube is like picky. I don't view abortion as any different than shooting somebody in the face. But that's me. And I didn't even start off like that. Like, I was pro-choice, and then I had more and more time to think about it and sit down logically, and I was like, oh my gosh, I think this is killing another person.
I guess, don't we think, I don't understand how we can say that it seems like a low IQ thing, where like if a person is going to be in a markedly worse spot in life, if they have a child, that getting an abortion is like, you have to be an idiot to do that. It feels like for some people that might be like the logical choice.
Well, it seems like, I mean, that's presupposing that children are a hindrance, you know,
financially,
versus like,
well, they are in some ways, of course.
I mean, that's hard for me to say too, because I'm saying like I'm from these neighborhoods, like these women. I'm telling you, this is my opinion, okay, and it could be a totally biased worldview just from what I've experienced. And at the end of the day, if they want that man's baby, they're gonna have that baby.
Sure, there might be, but I'm not saying there might be some that scam this stuff. I'm just saying that like we can envision that there are rational reasons why having an abortion would make sense, right?
Well, okay. I think if a woman was sincere and honest and said, hey, you know, I chose to terminate my pregnancy, I do believe I ended a human life, and I did it so that I could have professional success. I think if they said it out loud, just like that, then I could get on board with it. But it seems like a lot of the times they kind of, I did it because it was my choice, you know?
Okay, that's weird. I mean, I don't know anybody that's had an abortion that sounds like that. That sounds like a caricature of a person, right? I feel like most people that have abortions, like, abortion is really hard. Even if you're super pro-choice, like, an abortion is a hard thing to do. It leaves, the emotional feeling is not good. There's a lot of support that you usually need afterwards. Like, you had a dude inside of you, and now the dude is not inside of you. I've heard of the whole, like, oh, liberals celebrate abortion. They get it like Halloween candy or whatever. I mean, I'm sure there might be some people that do that, but I mean, I think in general, I feel like it's a pretty hard decision to make. I don't know how many people celebrate having had an abortion. I'm sure there are some out there, but
I don't think it's that hard. Like, I think that we overestimate women's empathy.
You don't think it's hard to have an abortion?
No, I don't think it is for some women. I think that we think that because we want to see the best in women. But we were talking about how the sexes are pretty similar, right? And they are very similar in empathy. I know people want to make out like women are the more empathetic sex. That's not true. And in fact, if men are compensated, they can perform more empathetic judgments per some studies. So I think that we just like to think that, oh, it must be really hard for these women, when in reality, like, some of them don't care.
I don't think I would ever assume that. That sounds like a wild assumption. You're on like some evil level of stuff there. If you think of
so now we're calling it evil. Like, it's like, I think that some of them really do think that it's a choice, right? And I don't think that they necessarily feel bad. I used to think that. I used to think if women understood what abortion was, that they wouldn't do it, and they're just misinformed. But then I came across this one Instagram, and it's called Not a Victim Abolition. And it's like, these women know that they're ending another human life. And sometimes they paint narratives that are really sad. But I mean, honestly, I'm just really biased from my own personal family experience when it comes to abortion. I mean, maybe I'm biased and maybe I'm seeing something other people don't, but there's women that are high in narcissism, and they just don't care. Like, it's just their choice. And when they find a man that they like who got them pregnant, they will have that baby. And that, to me, that's messing with the sanctity of life. And we can see that leak out in other areas like MAID, medical assistance in dying. And then we can see it where now we have some weird Norwegian philosopher trying to see if we can have brain dead women donate their wombs. Like, we're getting further and further from the sanctity of life. And I think that starts with, a conversation about, do we have a fundamental right to be born? And I mean, I think that we do. I mean, I don't know. So that's just my position. But I've talked to some women, and it's not as serious as you guys make it out to be. It's just a choice. Like, it's an option. It's an opportunity for them. What's nuts to me is that we have birth control and we still have this stuff on the table. Like, that doesn't, like, why? Then what was the point?
Well, you have, okay. You said you're pregnant now?
Yeah.
This is your first one?
Second pregnancy, first child.
Okay. Am I allowed to ask how pregnant you are?
Yeah, I'm 6 months.
Okay. The way that it's been explained to me, because I don't know, because I have no babies in me, to my knowledge.
Well, I mean, you got half of many, so.
Sure. I think you feel, I've heard this, and I don't know if I believe women when I say this, but I believe all women, whatever. I've heard that you can feel pretty early on when you're pregnant, before you've taken a positive test, that you can like start to have feelings that like something is a little bit different. And then, especially once you've gotten a positive test, and especially once you're like a few months in, like you can start to have like a feeling develop about like a thing inside of you. I feel like it would take a special type of person to abort that with no emotional feeling whatsoever. And I'm sure there are some that could, but I think in general, I think it's a pretty rough call, even for women that are pro-choice. I think it's a pretty tough thing to do.
I wouldn't say that it's all women, because like what I'm talking about is more of a concept of maternal narcissism, which is what I see that's a problem in the low SES community. And there's like elements of gynocentrism. And if you want to get Latin with it, there's a concept of Marianismo. I don't think it's all women. I think some women make the choice and they resent it or regret it afterward. And I think that that's really sad. And they do come out and they share stories about it. But somebody like convinced them that this was going to be like the better outcome for them. And then they're on the other side of that. And that's more so what I want to prevent. I think abortion hurts women more than it helps women. But if we're going back to like, feeling a bond with your baby, I mean,
you can always have another kid, right? You can always get pregnant again.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. They're like, well, I could just do it again.
Well, but I mean, you can, right?
Yeah, I think so. I know I've read some things that suggest that it can mess with your fertility after the fact, but I don't think that's on the whole. Mm-hmm. And most women who terminate have a child anyway. Well, I think I have let me find my Google Doc, but I think it was like 60%, maybe 40%. I can't recall, but there's a lot of women that are already mothers that terminate. So like, I just think that it's maternal narcissism, and I think that comes from like, well,
can you explain, what do you mean when you say
that? So the red pill would call it solipsism. Right? And I think that that's a real thing. But when I talk about maternal narcissism, so if we're talking about low SES brown people, there's typically some sort of agriculture background. So for Latinos, it's going to be, agriculture. For the Black community, it's going to be sharecropping, right? Because that's probably what's still affecting us today through like our grandparents. So for us, on the Latin side of things, like my grandma's first job was plantain picking and coffee bean picking. So when it came to emotional intelligence and development for their children, there was none, because raising children to them is just, do you have food? Do you have shelter? Do you have clothes? If so, you're taken care of. So there was no emotional development. And then we get, you know, like brought into the United States where we have a lot of abundance that we're not really familiar with. But so the maternal narcissism is like in our cultures and communities, the mother is close to God, right? And this is going to be more on the Latin tip, okay? So on the Latin tip, that brings in a concept of Marianismo, which is, do you understand Marianismo? Are you familiar?
Nope.
Okay. So, like, the red pill would just call it gynocentrism, and it's true, because that's what you were talking about earlier. I guess, like, somebody who's black got mad at you about something. I don't remember. So the mom in the Latin community is close to Holy Mother Mary, right? And then there's machismo. I think you're familiar with machismo because you would probably refer to it as, like, toxic masculinity or something like that.
Okay.
So, like, mom is close to Mother Mary. She's holy, and she's above reproach. So they get away with a lot more. Right, and that feeds into a narcissism because they didn't have the emotional development from their agriculture parents. So they just don't have it. They have a hard time connecting with their children. And then we have this gynocentric social order in the United States that says you can do whatever you want. This is your right. And so I think that's how we get to women who don't care about terminating a pregnancy. I think it's like solipsism and narcissism. So that's a hard breakdown for me to say, like how I've seen it in my life. I'm not sure what it's like for white women, but it's a big enough problem in the Latin community that if you look for it, you'll find some content about it on YouTube, definitely on Instagram, because there's a whole slew of children they're trying to recover from maternal narcissism that I found my little way into. So yeah, I think some women just don't care about terminating the pregnancy. I really do think that. But I think that would probably be a pathology or an IQ problem.
Why are they, if they already have kids and they're getting abortions, where does the maternal narcissism play into that?
Well, because the kid is not their own person. Like, the kid to them is just an extension of themselves.
Okay.
Like, it's hard to explain. Like, these women are holier than thou, above reproach. They get away with, well, literally, I guess if you want to talk about abortion, to be murder. But they get away with, like, things like child abuse, too. So that's what I'm saying is, like, we think that women are the more empathetic sex. I don't think so. I think we're about as empathetic as men are. And I don't think men are low in empathy. I think we're about the same. So I think we're capable of not caring about terminating these babies. I think we're capable of that. But I think we don't want to say that because that would make women look bad.
Okay. I mean, obviously I don't think that the fetuses are quite human yet, but that's probably like a whole other conversation.
I hope I'm making sense. Like, I know I feel like Camille Paglia when I talk.
What was that?
She's one of the OG anti-feminists. I guess technically she's trans, but I don't think she identifies as trans. But then she's got some weird relation to the Nambla people, so I don't know how good it is to mention her. But the way that she talks, she's very all over the place, which is where I'm at. So I'm trying my best to be as articulate as possible, but I do have a pretty quick thinking mind. It's very hard for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. Where do you want to go from here? I'm not sure.
I don't know. Where do you want to take me? I think like the abortion debate is so like dead to me. I have an entire like point counterpoint situation for abortion, but it's just like I think it just comes down more and more to this is a human life that you're ending, a human life with potential, and some people just choose to end it for reasons, and I don't agree with it. I think that conservatives are delusional about how to handle the situation. They want an all-out ban when abortion is as old as so whenever women figured out they could unpregnant themselves. I think it's about as old as that. And yeah, so I mean I get some heat because I think it should be regulated on a state level, and they're like, oh well, don't you think it should just be completely federally illegal? I'm like, that's really cute that you think that would even happen. Like, that's really
yeah, probably not going back to that. I feel like we have like I think we're very, very, very far apart from each other in a lot of these things. So I don't know, like I can't really, if I tackle with any of the higher level concepts you're saying, we're gonna have to like go down into like really deep stuff to figure out where our disagreements lie.
I mean, we can if you want to. I know that you're more progressive than me. I'm socially conservative. I know that I'm Christian. obviously I'm Latina. I'm in an age gap marriage. I think that the red pill is helpful if you look for things that are going to help you with your life. Like the fact that it helped me to get married and pregnant is sad because I think women should have educated me on that and not a bunch of dudes on YouTube. But I digress. This is where we are at. So
What do you mean when you say you're like in an age gap marriage? What does that mean?
my husband is 23 years older than me, and then I get a lot of, opinions on that because I'm young, I'm Latin, and then obviously it's creepy, and I've been groomed, even though I approached him when I was 25. So that's always a good time. That's always fun, and I think that infantilizes women. So, like the chat is like, "Oh my god."
So sorry, just to understand. So you were 25 and he was 48. Okay.
He looked good to me though.
Are you worried about like raising children?
Am I worried about raising children? You mean like because I might outlive him?
Well, you might walk him. Like he'll be, into his 60s, I guess, when your kids are teens. Do you have are you worried that maybe I'm gonna have to take care of him if something goes wrong medically and my children at the same time or something, or?
I've thought about a lot of these things because it bothered me at first. So when I was attracted to him, I had a lot of cognitive dissonance. I didn't know what to do, and I felt like it was just something that I should run from because I guess it's atypical these days. It is. I know the red pill's like older men and younger women. It's like the match made in heaven. Like, it's an outlier. Okay, stop it, right? But I think I would have really missed an opportunity at love, at a good quality love, if I had not taken it. But it does come with compromises. And I think women need to accept that they're going to have to make some compromises in dating. I compromised on age. It comes with some, responsibility, but you have to choose your hard. So have I thought about me having to take care of him in old age? Unless he has a genetic disease, I don't think that that's going to be a problem. He's very physically fit. I didn't marry, an average middle-aged man. I married a physically fit one, much stronger than me, more disciplined. And I think that it would be better to have a quality marriage with polarity. So somebody that I love and I'm attracted to, that I would rather have that and it be shorter than to have a longer marriage with somebody that's kind of mediocre and I'm not really that into. He's just that guy to me. So I
don't disagree. If you told me you were 16 when you met, I'd have way different feelings on it. But if you're 25, if you're 25, the age gap is a red flag, obviously, but a red flag doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. But if you chose because you were looking for an age gap that big, I would say there's probably something bad going on there. But if it just happened to be the guy that you met and you love him and there just happens to be a big age gap, it's a big one, but it's not the worst thing in the world, I don't think.
No, I've thought about it because he used to keep me up at night. I was like, this doesn't seem, logistically, it doesn't seem like a smart decision, but I think romantically, it is the right decision for me.
Sure.
How
long have you guys been together for?
We've been together, I think, 2.5 years, and then we'll be married for a year at the end of the month.
Gotcha. How old was your first child?
So that was a miscarriage that I had. So I've been pregnant twice. This is my second time. This is going to be our first child.
I thought when you said you'd been pregnant twice I thought you had one child and one miscarriage. But you mean the pregnancy you have right now is your... Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm very public about that just because I think it's important for women to understand, as much as we want to shield women from the biological burden of reproduction, some, bad things still happen anyway. And I think it's just better if we kind of accept it at times. But that's been an interesting journey where I'm like, is the medical sector helping me or hurting me this pregnancy? I can't decide.
Sure.
But yeah, that was just something so that's what the red pill helped me with, right? Because I felt some type of way. I was like, he's older than me. I shouldn't do that. But then they explained, here's logically why an older man who has resources, who is physically fit, might be attractive to you. So that was one thing. The other thing was I'm a big believer in pheromones and histocompatibility. I'll know if I'm right on this. I'm running kind of an experiment, but I found out that I'm a carrier for a very damaging recessive gene for a bad disease. I'm not going to say what it is, but I think I'm married today too because I like how he smells. So he's getting tested for this same disease, and if he's not a carrier, I'm gonna be like, yes, I won the histocompatibility lottery. So I'm excited about that to see how that goes. But
Gotcha.
you can ask tons of questions about it because I think there's some stuff in the chat. People think red pill grooming. No, he certainly didn't groom me. And my husband did show me the red pill, but it's because I was complaining about women to him, and I didn't know what to call it. It was just. Was frustrated. I thought that there was something wrong with me. I'm like, why can't I hold female friendships? And And then I ended up realizing, like, oh, well, maybe there is something culturally wrong with women. And then, aside from that, there's a lot I could get into. I think that women are lied to on so many things about this fake sisterhood. It's like, it's not a real thing. Like, these girls are not your friends, in my opinion. I could be wrong.
Are girls not friends with other girls, or?
I think girls are seasonal friends with other women for the most part. But I think I'm also at a disadvantage. I don't think, I'm not trying to be mean. I think I'm smarter than a lot of women, and so I think it just makes it hard to socialize with them. I genuinely feel depressed when I talk to women who are not as smart as me, and I don't think that I would be smarter than you. I think that I don't know. My husband thinks I'm 115. I don't know. So, but it's very depressing to socialize with other women, and so I thought for a long time, oh well, like obviously it's me. So he ends up showing me some red pill stuff. I knew what to call it, and it's just I have a lot of problem with unethical female behavior that occurs that there's excuses for. I think it's really damaging.
What's an example of unethical female behavior?
I think women get away with child abuse.
What is child abuse, man?
So there's 5 forms of child abuse: verbal abuse, emotional abuse, physical neglect, emotional neglect, and is it sexual abuse? I think that might be the last one. I think women get away with things that if fathers were to do them, they would be publicly admonished or put to jail.
Like, do you think that fathers don't engage in any of these, or do you think that they don't engage in them because you just don't parent as much, or what do you think?
I mean, I know men and women are capable of aggression to the same degree, except when it comes to like physical aggression, men actually hurt people. So women will physically aggress, but it's not that physically damaging, harmful, I would say. So we're both equally capable of aggression, but whenever we hear about child abuse, we only hear about it from like the male perpetrator side of things. That's usually the caricature that we see in academia. I think there's a big chunk of academia that isn't looking into female propagated child abuse, and I think that children don't even know what to call it. I think that they're just like, oh, my mom was strict. They don't think upon reflection, oh, my mom physically assaulted me, my mom emotionally neglected me, abused me, blah, blah, blah. But if it was their father, they'd be very quick and able to label that and address it. So I think like women get away with these things in this gynocentric social order, but I don't think it just happens with families. I think that women can also be abusive, and what we would call abuse if a man did it, I think women do it to other women too in friendships. If that makes sense, like verbal abuse or like verbal manipulation, emotional manipulation, stuff like that.
Okay. The problem is every time I ask you a question, we open up like there's like 52 different doors to go down.
You can pick them. I'll follow your lead. It's all good.
Oh, okay. I need a drink for this. Okay, give me 1 second. Not like an alcoholic
Yeah,
drink.
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Hold on.
Yeah, take your time. Is he speechless in a good way or a bad way? I'm reading the chat. Also, it is so hot in here. My face is pink. What do we have? Alcohol. Yes, we go. We all need a drink. Time. How am I cooking? You guys can ask me questions about my life. I'll answer it. Like, honestly, look, if my life had been different, my life had been easier, and I think I wouldn't have questioned so many things. But I had a very hard life, and then I go to academia, and these people swear they know so much about low SES brown people, and so I actually was a social work major. I had to leave the program because I felt like they weren't helping anybody. I literally felt like they weren't helping anybody, so I bounced. I ended up doing anthropology, but it's like, if you're born with a decent IQ in the ghetto, you make some observations and you're like, I feel like there's problems here, but academia can't address any of them because they're scared to look racist. And I'm like, you guys are making it worse. Y'all are making it worse. I'm like, please help. Social sciences are over 100 years old. What the hell have these people accomplished? What did I like about my husband? He was charming and direct. Successful, blue eyes. I think I have a thing for blue eyes. I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to watch the chat. Oh gosh, do you not think that your mindset be skewed from the machismo underlying the Puerto Rican community? So, I could see where you would think that, like the machismo part. but I grew up in a single mother home. So like when I think about there wasn't that much of a dominant male presence for me to have experience with machismo to the degree that you're saying. Um, so I understand machismo. Like, okay, I can tell you about machismo how I see it now. So machismo how I see it now was when I was younger. The typical Latin thing is you come of age and you get slut shamed. Period. Right. But so I have a brother. He's very good with the girls. This kid can do whatever he wants. He can just have a new girlfriend every week. Not that he's doing that, but he can just do whatever he wants, right? So that point of machismo, because if we're gonna do Marianismo, which is Mother Mary, and then we're gonna do like machismo, you know, the sons kind of get treated like Jesus. They kind of get away with a lot more. So if you want to talk about machismo, that's how I've dealt with it. I think there was one instance where I did deal with negative aggressive machismo from a man. Yeah, that was true, but that didn't last very long. So I wouldn't say that that's like skewed, that there's no way that that could skew me, because I don't think I had that much of a male influence. I think I had more of a like a gynocentric matriarchal influence. So okay, what other questions do we have? What would you allow your husband a one-way open marriage? No. Why? I have respect for myself. Okay. Don't you think feminism tries to counter this machismo attitude? No. Here's the thing about feminism is like feminism, from what I can tell, and this is my interpretation of it. Feminism, from my interpretation, is like they think that men are inherently bad, and it's like if y'all are trying to liberate low SES brown women, what's a way that an average education woman? I'm talking to your chat. I'm sorry, I'll be quick.
Go for it.
But what's a way that an average education woman could double her household income? Like effing marriage. But like these feminists don't want to do that because that would make men look good. So I'm like, y'all either trying to liberate people or you're not. Like, don't play with me. All right, what's up?
Okay, can you give me 2 or 3 issues with men that aren't caused by feminism?
2 or 3 issues with men?
Like, what are 2 or 3 bad things about men that aren't caused by feminism?
Oh. I mean, I would blame it on biology, though. I don't know if that's allowed. It would be hard for me to think of like social stuff unless you propose some ideas. But biologically, I think men trend toward, culturally. Okay, we found one. They're proponents toward narcissism. That's really annoying.
Mm-hmm.
That's super annoying compared to a woman's proponents toward being borderline. Yeah. But the narcissism in men, if they have it, like it's
okay. I don't know if that counted. Hold on, because it felt like you found a way to throw women under the bus at the same time. Like men can be narcissists, but like, oof, at least they're not borderline. That's what women do on the other end of it.
No, I think they're equally bad.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say one is worse than the other, because I think there are people like that are capable of killing people on both sides.
Sure. Do you think when it comes to like destructive social order stuff, do you think that it's like mainly women that are involved, or do you think men and women share the blame, or do you think men and women share the blame, but it's all driven by feminism?
I think men and women share the blame.
Okay.
Yeah, because the manosphere, the red pill, they're like men lead, women follow.
Sure.
I'm like, well, this
when
doesn't
you say,
seem to be
yeah,
going
when you
well.
say gynocentrism, what do you mean by that? Gynocentric society.
I think that women are put in a higher social status than men based on their sex, just in general. When it comes to politics and marketing, but I would tie marketing to economy.
So politics and marketing. So for politics, it's vastly overrepresented with men, isn't it? When we look at presidents, when we look at people in Congress, when we look at elected officials all over the country, right? And then I think for marketing, kind of, but like, is it fair when there's an artifact for why women are marketed to more, and isn't it because men tend to be working and then women are the ones that go out and do the shopping? So in a way, like women are marketed more, but it's not because they have more opportunities or more money or they're preferred. It's just because they tend to be the ones that control all the household budgets, because the men are the ones that are able to work and earn the money, and the woman has to just go and shop.
I don't disagree with you on that. Well, I mean, there's probably something to dig into that, but I want to go back to the politics.
Sure.
I mean, I understand that. Like, here's my thing. Like, if I had to think about an actual patriarchy that I think might exist, it would be the George Soros patriarchy, where, the highest of high value men, just the ones that are running this whole globe. I think that they use women, and sometimes, our emotional tendencies biologically. I think they want our dollar, and I think they want our vote. So you're talking about like, men are more represented in politics. Number one, I don't even think women want to be in politics like that. I think that's personality differences at the extremes. But
well, Well,
you
hold
know,
on,
we
hold on,
still
wait, I'm
vote
sorry,
these
wait.
dudes in.
I want to do a thing. Whenever I say something that you disagree with, you can stop me immediately. One of the reasons why the conversation is difficult for me is because you'll say 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 things that I all disagree with, building towards a part, and then it's hard for me to like step in and say anything. So what you
okay.
just said there, that like I don't even think women want to do politics. Those are like extremes or whatever. I kind of agree with you broadly, but I would also say broadly, men don't even want to do politics. The reality is that the people doing politics are all at the edge, right? It's the edge of men and the edge of women.
Okay.
Right. So I agree with you that women broadly don't want to do politics, but I think that's the same as men who broadly don't want to do politics. I think there are some women that want to do politics. People like Hillary Clinton, AOC, Marjorie Greene Taylor, like that exists on both sides. Probably not as much as men. Even in my perfect liberal, progressive, egalitarian world or whatever, there'd probably still be more men in politics than women, but it'd be more equal than the representation we see now. The only reason I give this as an example, though, is because I think you said that you made it sound like women were overrepresented, had an advantage politically, and when it came to marketing. I think those are the two things you gave. So now you're telling me that women don't even want to do politics and seem to not be overrepresented politically. So I don't know what you meant when you said that. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, because you were talking about politicians and you weren't talking about voters. Like we're voting for these men first and foremost, right? And I mean, granted, it's like all we have to choose. I think overwhelmingly when people run, it's usually men. So that's what you were saying, like, oh, there's a lack of representation, and in my eyes, there might not be because of the amount of female voters, right? And I just think that women don't necessarily want to. You said it too. You know, even at the extreme, the small 20% of people that like want to do politics. That's not a real number. I'm just going off of like Pareto principle. There's 20% of people that want to run for politics. Like there's probably less women than that. Yeah, I mean, I would say I'm on that.
Okay. So I'm looking this up now because I should have known this, but I didn't even know this. I'm looking at gender gap in voting in the United States, and it seems like quite a few more women. Unless I'm misreading, it seems like quite a few more women vote than men in the United States.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. We outnumber men at the polls and for registration, so that would just be further to the point where we might actually live in a gynocentric social order where women make the overwhelming majority of political decisions.
Sure, but then I still don't know if I can say that gynocentric. But then if that is the case, that women are voting more often, this is oftentimes a talking point I'll give in response to like BLM advocates. Well, it's like, well, why isn't the criminal justice system changing? It's like, well, it changes at the local level, and at the local level, it tends to be older, affluent, white people that are voting. So the criminal justice system, these people don't care about the criminal justice because these people aren't getting arrested. They don't care. But if it is the case that women are massively and disproportionately showing up to the polls compared to men, then you'd expect people to appeal to them. Isn't that the system kind of working as intended?
You mean that if women are voting more than men, wouldn't we expect more female politicians?
No, not female politicians, but for politicians to appeal to them, right? Like if I'm in a city,
women?
Yeah, I'm going to appeal to.
I think they do.
Yeah, but I think they should. That's the system working as intended, right?
Yeah, I could see what you're saying. Okay, so yeah, I guess in my perfect world, I would say that you'd have to be a net paying taxpayer to have the right to vote. That's where I'm at. I think that would get rid of.
That get rid of like half the population, though. No.
I mean, you're gonna vote selfishly if you vote for a system that pays you. And I think that's like an actual problem. But I'm
maybe it might be an actual problem that there are such disparities in societies between what people are able to offer society that we kind of need a system to like equalize it out. No. Like in any society, you need people that are going, not to be crass or anything, but like some people have to be janitors, some people have to be working at McDonald's. Like society doesn't work if everybody's only an engineer, right?
Yeah.
But if these people are necessary to the fundamental upkeep and function of society, right? I might be the biggest hotshot in the world, but at the end of the day, I want like a server to bring me food. I want somebody to keep my apartment building clean. Like I need these people. I don't think a world order works where I get to vote and they have no say in how the system is ran just because I happen to be doing a job that is more valued in society than they are when I need them to exist to do my job.
Yeah, but I think we're, kind of equating blue collar workers to not being net taxpayers.
Because blue collar workers are probably almost never net taxpayers. I think it's like the bottom. I think that the bottom 50% of American society doesn't pay federal income tax. I think it's a net negative. I think for bottom 50%.
Okay, so I don't know how you would look this up. So I know the median income for men is somewhere around 52,000. The median income for women is somewhere, I think, in the 43,000.
Wait, is that true? I thought median income for men was like 39,000. We can just look it up. We can look it up. Sorry.
Yeah. Because I'm trying to see, like, if that's true, damn.
We
But
pay our tax system is
I'm more
very, very,
brutal.
very top heavy, right?
I would be much more brutal than that, just because I mean I grew up in a community that I feel like the children are paying for a lot of bad decisions from the parents because we have government bailouts.
Well, I mean, the
Like,
children pay for
yeah.
bad decisions, but they also inherit like consequences of the good decisions as well, right? Like, yeah, we've got to deal with bailouts and shit, but we have like the internet, right?
Okay, I mean, if you're talking about, yeah, if you're talking on the whole, are things getting better? Yes, but we still have these like predisposed, well, these children that are predisposed to kind of suck and never realize their full potential because, you know, mommy chose Uncle Sam over trying to figure out like love. But I mean, that's like not even necessarily women's fault. It's a Gen X mom and baby boomer mom problem. They suck.
Well, I feel like everybody's parents sucked, right? Isn't that kind of the point? Didn't everybody's parents have issues? Like we complain about some
I don't
things,
think that.
but I feel like everybody's. I feel like everybody had issues, right? And everybody's. Right?
No,
You don't think so?
So obviously everyone has issues, right? But if we're looking at the influence of SES and positive outcomes, then you know there is a big difference. Yeah, I've met rich people that have problems. They're different problems. But
Oh, I'm sorry.
they
When I
still
said
have-
everyone
yeah.
sucks, I wasn't comparing class to class. I was just saying generation to generation, right? Obviously, class to class, like upper class and middle class people are going to be doing phenomenally compared to working class people in almost every single thing, right?
Okay.
That's going to be a lot different. But I was saying generation to generation, like boomer parents sucked and had their problems. Silent generation parents probably sucked and had their problems. People prior to that sucked. Like, you know, we go through shitty shit right now because we've got to deal with like bank bailouts and stuff. But, you know, older generations had to deal with the Great Depression, which sucked. I mean, like, we all kind of have our problems. We get some advantages, we get some negatives. I think it's hard to say on a whole, like this generation sucked compared to this generation, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, this is different. I can put a pin in it. I can
Go
remember
for
it because I would just be talking about how I think Gen X moms, baby boomer mothers are derelict of their duty. But
What do you mean by that, though?
well, I don't. If we start on this, then we can't go back to the median income. And
Oh,
how
yeah, we
many
can
of
go
these-
back. Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
Okay, so whichever direction you want to go, I'll follow you.
What were we talking about for median income? Oh, I think the stat
Like,
is like
how many of these people?
the bottom
how many people
50%
are
of
net paying-
American workers, I don't think pay taxes. I think that's true. Their federal tax liability ends up being zero once you get past like your standard deduction, your child tax credit, anything else you got.
Okay. Huh. I don't. I mean, I might just have to be a jerk. Like, I might just have net paying taxpayer, baby. Like, no, you can't vote for the system that feeds you because we end up with problems like what's going on in Brazil, Venezuela. I'm very forward projecting in that way.
But don't you
very
want it? Well, let's
aware-
be forward projecting. Don't you kind of want and need everybody to be bought into the system? Like, do you really think the bottom 50, 60% of people would be happy if they couldn't vote?
I mean, I wouldn't be talking about happiness. It would be like the net positive.
Well,
you know, with better decisions.
happiness is
Yeah.
important because if they're not happy, then they do things like violent revolution, right? That's what I'm trying to avoid. I don't want like a population. When I say like be happy, what I mean is that like they would be content to exist in a peaceful manner within this system. That's what I'm thinking of.
Well, this is where I just think that if there's people that are, and I hate to say it, like more intelligent, because I mean, even an intelligent person born low SES is going to find a way out. So people that are more intelligent, more capable, and I know there's like Nepo babies, and I don't like them either. But I think that it's possible that this bigger representation could do well for the bottom half, like could make their lives better. It would have to be an experiment. I don't know what kind of fallout there would be. You know, I would like to see how that would work, but I don't think it's happened yet in order for us to do it. But I see a lot of problems when it comes to like Democrats in the U.S. Republicans have their own problem, but when it comes to like low SES minorities and Democrats, I feel like these people are shooting us in the foot like every day, and it just pisses me off because I think we could be way better off than what they're willing to do for us. Yeah, and it's like we have to pay for it at the end of the day. Like, we're the freaking community that doesn't have fathers. We're the ones that have criminality. You know what I mean? Like, lack of access to health. Like, it's us.
I guess I just say like I feel like rich people, there's a lot of problems they just wouldn't give a fuck about. Like rich people wouldn't give a fuck about fixing like homelessness or like doing anything for like people that need food stamps. Like they're just like, oh, well, if you can't work, like suffer, starve, who cares? Like,
do you think that so the very, very wealthy people that you're referring to, do you think that they would trend toward, I don't know, like narcissism or sociopathy? I wouldn't say neuroticism. I would just say like narcissism or sociopathy. Like, do you think they're more less human?
So I don't think it's that. Never explain with malice what could be explained with stupidity, except instead of stupidity here, I'd say just kind of like cluelessness, right? Like, I don't think it's that rich people would be especially cruel. I just think they just wouldn't care as much because, like, oh, like, why can't this person just figure their shit out, or why can't they do that? Like, I feel like that would be like where people would tend towards, and they wouldn't worry about some problems because they'd be like, why, like, they wouldn't even know it's a problem. They just wouldn't think much about it, like ignorance, basically.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that's, I don't know. I haven't really.
Have you ever lived in like cities, like city, like downtown, like big cities?
Yeah, I grew up in Kissimmee.
Yeah. Have you ever heard really wealthy, liberal, progressive people talk about homeless people?
Yeah, they usually suck at it.
Yeah, because they've never seen one before. So you get like phrases like our unhoused neighbors, and like homeless people are just like chill and cool and you should never be scared of them, and if you are, that's like evil or whatever. It's like you've clearly never been around a crazy homeless person before. Like, it's very obvious, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think those progressives are evil or mean or like hate homeless people. They just don't know because they don't have the experience, I think.
And that would be the same thing for like wealthy Republicans. They just don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I remember listening to, when I was in Louisiana, there were a couple wealthy people that we stayed with when we were doing an event for them. And this mom started talking about how lazy she thought everyone in Hurricane Katrina was in New Orleans or whatever, how lazy and they should have blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, like, don't you think it was like pretty hard for them? Like, what are they supposed to do? And she's like, well, I don't know why they didn't just all like move away. Like, why don't they just leave?
Oh my God.
And it's like, that's something that like I can understand her perspective, because this was a lady, their family owned like 5 car dealerships. They came from money. Their mansion we stayed in was fucking unbelievable. And I can understand her saying that because, like, yeah, that makes sense for her. But for a lot of people, it's kind of hard to just like pack up all your shit and leave, especially if you're living like paycheck to paycheck and like barely getting by. Like, you can't just like pack your whole life up and take off, you know?
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. So I think from your worldview, your lens, you try to solve, well, I don't know what you try to do. You just chatting on YouTube. You're doing great though. But it seems like you're more trying to address societal problems that are complex. Where I think my perspective is what bothers me the most about the liberal and the progressive side of things is that I think it just sells out brown women. And I think that what could help our communities the most would probably be marriage. I think that that's the best answer right now at this point in time.
I understand what you're saying, but like, I don't think we get married that way. I don't think that we get married for financial success. I think that we tend to have financial success and then marriage follows kind of as a reward for that. So like,
I see.
Oh, go ahead.
I could see that perspective. I think that people that have, I mean, marriage is the lowest it's ever been. It's only 6 per 1,000, and it's lowest it's ever been in recorded history in the U.S. So, and I think, but it's hard because I think it's like university's fault. It could be capitalism because women are getting divorced because they can, and we have economic autonomy, so we get to make more romantic decisions than we've ever made before. But it seems to me like societal brainwashing at the university level. Like, I don't want to curse. It doesn't make any sense to me.
You want, unless you're like, it's not like a red pill thing to do or something. I don't know.
No, that one I don't. They annoy me too. Okay, so like, here's the thing: you grow up in an urban inner city. Let's say you're a low SES woman, right? You're gonna hear things about feminism a lot more now today. Not when I was going to school. I graduated in 2013, so feminism wasn't even really a thing. I was never a feminist. I just thought, like, this seems like an upper middle class white woman's problem. So like, you'll go to school and you'll hear from these women, because school is predominantly women. You'll hear from these college educated women about how the systems of oppression work. And so then we'll hear things about the patriarchy. You're like a young, impressionable girl in the hands of the government because you're going to school, public school, because that's what your parents can afford. You have to go to public school. That's it. So you hear from these college-educated teachers when the reality is like they probably went to college because their parents got married and stay married. Now, there is a difference between divorced mothers and divorced fathers and what household is in there. That's true. Divorced mothers still, I mean, their children still tend to go to college. So it's like you got to hear from Becky, your teacher, about the systems of oppression. Meanwhile, she's coming from a full-blown 2-parent household with completely different opportunities than you, trying to tell you that men are holding you down. And how the hell is that supposed to work for a young, impressionable woman's mind? Who, like, if we're talking about liberating these women, yeah, twice the household income is a great way to do that, and marriage is a great way to do that.
Yeah, so, okay, I'm going to push back against, I'm going to push back on this one more time. You keep saying twice the household income. I don't think people marry for financial success. I think people tend to get married after they've had some financial success.
That's just well, yeah. I think that's part of a problem.
Well, I think that's
Yeah.
how it's always been. Well, maybe not necessarily when women couldn't work, but I think in general, people tend to wait for some level of financial stability. And then once they've got that financial stability, then they get married. I think that tends to be how people sort themselves out. Because until you have some level of financial stability, you can't really have a house. It's harder to meet people. Getting married is a type of financial commitment. You don't want to probably get married to somebody that like lives with their parents because you don't know if they can even manage a household budget. Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually think that that's a problem, though.
What part of that is a problem? Yeah.
Like, let's wait until we're, fully financially capable. And I think that's more on the male side than the woman side of things. That's my opinion. I could totally be wrong. So, instead of, hey, let's get married young, build this thing together, and succeed over time, it's like, oh, like, well, let's just wait until I feel like it's the right moment. And
Isn't that wait? Maybe that. I think that's probably a really good idea, is to wait for the right moment, right? You probably don't want to jump into lifelong commitments. Like, marriage is a really big deal.
I think
especially if you're concerned with like divorce rates and stuff, right? Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, I mean, I agree with you on the divorce rates, but it's like, I think we just live in such a fearful society. So it's like, when is the right time to get married? Is it ever going to be a right time? Is this a cope? Is this true?
Can't the right time be like at the very least when you both have like a place that you can live in and you're like both are working like okay jobs and are done with school? I think that's like okay. I think those are some decent.
I think that's not like the worst model in the world, but we're neglecting another option, and I'm not arguing which option is better. I'm just saying that there's multiple ways to approach this that would probably help a lot of people out. Another model is you like live with your parents, and then y'all end up dating, and then you get money together, and then what people used to do they would live with one parent, one family's parent, so like the in-laws or your actual family of origin, and then you would save money and then you get a house. That's what people did, and now they just kind of are, well, yeah, screw it, like divorce is the way it is, and why would I even bother trying? I think a lot of this stuff is a cope, and people could have really the joy and fulfillment in marriage if they weren't so afraid to approach it. And I say this as somebody that's remarried. I think it's really important. I mean, you can dissect that too, but I think it's really important.
I would say when it comes to marriage and relationships, like I don't think you are dating until you live together. Anything before that, I think, is to say that you have a boyfriend or girlfriend and you guys live separately. I think that's a cope. I think until then you're friends and you fuck and maybe you say you love each other, but until you live with somebody, you have no idea what it's like to actually be with that person. I think so. I think that the idea of like getting married before even like living together, that sounds wild to me. Like I would never suggest somebody do that ever. Unless you're literally like in financial destitution and like the richest person of the world comes along and wants to like fucking save you, But aside from, Captain Save-A-Ho, like you're like, the idea of like, oh, we live with our parents and we go on dates sometimes and it's really cool and we're going to get married and then build a future together. Like you don't even know if you like each other now. How are you going to know if you like each other and whatever the future is? That sounds crazy to me, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think I mean, I cohabitated. I had my own apartment though. So like for a very long time, I had my own apartment. I just didn't frequent there that often. But I think that's part of the problem, right? When we're talking, because everyone's liberal and conservative in many ways. We're liberal about the things we want to change. We're conservative about the things that we want to keep. I don't think that this modern dating dynamic is functional in terms of marriage, because it's the lowest it's ever been, right?
You keep saying that marriage is the lowest ever been, but I don't know if that's even necessarily a good or a bad thing, right? I think that demands a little bit of further analysis, right? Because it's possible, nay, even probable, that in the past, divorce rates were pretty low because how are you going to get divorced as a woman? I think you said it yourself that like in some of these cases, like if you get divorced, you're like, fuck, you don't really have a job, you might have a kid, you're like just, you might lose your, like everything's like super fucked. So I don't know if higher divorce rates are necessarily bad. Like I don't think in general we don't want people to get divorced. Like if I can choose a divorce rate of 0% or 50%, I would choose 50%. But just because I would choose that, if the divorce rate used to be lower and now it's higher, that doesn't mean it's worse now than it was before, even if I would opt for a lower divorce rate, right? Because society has changed in such a way that maybe people are getting divorced now that didn't have the opportunity to in the past, but probably should have been able to in the past.
So yes, right. This is very, this is a lot. Okay, women do get divorced now, just because they can. Because the red pill, there was.
I don't think anybody. I don't think that's true. I reject that. I don't believe it. I don't think anybody gets divorced just because they can. I don't agree with that.
Yeah, well, if we didn't have industrial agriculture, we would actually be dependent on men, and we wouldn't be able to divorce them. Like that part is true.
But when you say divorce just because we can, there's probably a reason why you get divorced. I don't think anybody wants their marriage to end. That sucks.
Yeah, but there's also women who get divorced and then they come to regret it and they didn't feel like they made the right decision.
There's people
But
that
I
end
mean,
relationships that feel like it. But there's also people that stayed married forever and like, fuck, this was a mistake. I shouldn't have done this. But like, I guess I had kids, so
yeah.
whatever, right? So I just think in general, because there's a, I don't know if you're doing this intentionally or not, or if you're aware of this, or we just haven't verbalized it completely. But there's a stereotype that like 80% of women initiate divorces, and the only reason women get divorced is because they're bored and they want to terrorize their husband. And these poor, sad men are just the victims of these evil, malicious women that are just out here divorcing them for no reason over and over and over again. And it's like, I don't think it quite works. I don't think that women enjoy getting divorced. I don't think anybody gets divorced just because they can. They probably get divorced because they feel like the relationship isn't working out for them.
Okay, so I probably agree. Okay, I want to go back to the whole cohabitation thing.
Okay.
What you're saying is like you're describing what people do for modern dating, and that is true. We cohabitate longer, and then if you wait long to get married, you're more likely to stay married, right? But we're doing this I don't know, long, slow burning love, and then I think it ends up being an issue when it comes to like reproduction later. But I'm not sure that that's a good or effective model. Now, I might have to shut up in 30 years when the data comes out that like marriage doesn't necessarily matter because of the co-parenting that goes on, and it's just parental investment and it's still producing good children. But I don't know that yet. But what I do know
Well, don't
is
we
that
already? Well, don't we already kind of know that? Like,
only in the Black community do we know that.
well, no, like, so for instance, I know this because I'm in a split. My son and my son's mom, my ex-girlfriend, we're not together anymore, right? So I'm very interested. So I would like dig into a lot of this in the past, right? When it comes to the success of children, and when it comes to how children do in like broken households or whatever, it seems like a lot of this has to do with SES related stuff, right? Because like a single parent household, we're not generally thinking of like mom comes home, she takes a break, the children are hanging out having fun in their 3-bedroom house. Usually it's like mom is fucked. Half of parents don't even get child support. So the dad's not even paying anything. Mom's working 2 or 3 jobs. They're in a shitty neighborhood. Everything is like fucked in their lives, right? So I feel like a lot of the stats when we talk about like, oh, like broken households are the lack of marriage is like destroying kids' lives. I don't think it's the lack of marriage. I think it's growing up in like really broken homes. And I think that happens because, not necessarily because people just get divorced, like wealthy split parent households like do fine. Yeah.
Yeah, this is true. Like we talked, I think earlier, I brought up the fact that divorced mothers, not divorced fathers, very different, two very different things. Divorced mothers, their children will still succeed in college and will still graduate. Not at quite the same rate as a 2-parent household, but they still do. They're not far behind.
Sure. I don't know the data on this, but I'm pretty sure that my guess would be that the outcomes for a split parent household for middle class people might be equal to or better than the outcomes for married households for like working class or like poverty class people. That'd be my guess.
So I'm waiting for more data to come out, because so far the one thing that social scientists have been able to discern is that probably the best parenting method is a 2-parent household in comparison to like just broken homes in general. So, but it could be very possible, because we're in a post-industrial society, we're in a post-marital society. It could be possible that people just raise their kids together in different ways and the kids still turn out better. But I don't know yet. So I'm not
Sure.
willing to budge on it until the data comes out. And I can just see like the chaos that's happened in my community and other communities, and even my own life and some of my girlfriends' lives, where it's not good for the kids when the parents split sometimes.
Sure, but it's also probably
not.
not. It's also really bad for kids when parents are fighting all the time. I think that's horrible for
Yeah.
children. Like, so because sometimes we'll get people that are these like purist in terms of like you have to stay together for the kids, and like if you're fighting in front of your children all the time, like you should just split. Like that's like the worst thing ever. I think that you could have in front of a child is 2 parents that hate each other that are going after each other's throats with a kid in the household. Like at that point, you should just, I think, divorce.
Yeah, I mean, if you like hate each other, yes, but if it's something that you can work through, you need to go to couples counseling, because it's not just about you; it's about the child or children.
Sure, but I mean, like that's true even in relationships without children. If it's something you can work through, you should always try to work through it, even if you're
No,
even
I'm
if you're
with
dating
you
with
on
friends.
that.
Sure, okay.
But I think like what I think is a problem with modern dating, women are the betters, so we're picking. I think that our moms didn't teach us how to get men or keep men, or like men that we're compatible with. And I think that's something that women are Gen X mothers and baby boomer mothers, I think that they're derelict of duty of that, because it was supposed to be something that you're culturally taught. Okay, this is how you get a man. This is what they like. This is what they don't like. This is how you talk to them. This is how they're kind of different. And you learn this and you go out there and you're able to get a decent mate. But I don't think that that's what's happening. I think you get born now as a woman and your mom, like, especially if you grow up in a single mother home, because your mom might not even have the education either. I call it romantic education, but you're just born and they're like expecting grandkids. It's like that's great, but how am I supposed to get there? You haven't taught me anything about men. I don't know how I'm supposed to socialize with this opposite sex. I think
What do
that's
you
a
think
problem,
is
and I think.
what do you think is like in terms of skills that like women don't learn that they need to learn? Like what's an example of that?
Oh my God. Well, I hate to say it because some of it I don't know if academia would support it, but we do have to kind of appreciate that academia right now is pretty leftist. So if there was anything that would, benefit men, do I think it's going to get studied? Like honestly, probably not. That's just where I'm at. Or anything that
Sure.
paints
I
women
like
in
a lot of
negative
like
light.
relationships and dating and stuff like this is like an area that I have like a really high interest in. So we
Yeah.
can speak a little bit more anecdotally if you want. We don't have to be like super academic, but
Oh, okay.
I'll
Yeah,
just
just
say
like
opening this because I'm curious because from my feeling is I tend to feel like men have more trouble socializing or dealing with women than women have with men. That's like the feeling that I have. But
No,
I
I
feel
don't
like
think that at
yeah, I feel
all.
you feel differently. So I'm just curious. I don't need like a study and a data point or whatever. Just I'm curious in
Yeah,
general. Like what
yeah.
are some skills that you think that women need that they don't have when it comes to dealing with men?
Oh my God, it's so bad. That's why I can't stand the manosphere sometimes, because there are a bunch of socially awkward women out here. Like, how are you gonna say that women are the more socially savvy sex? We can't even get commitment from boyfriends we like. So like, okay, so at a base level, a teen boy can come to the conclusion and say, all right, I want girls. How do I get girls? Well, girls like gifts. I need to get a job for my parents or something so I can get money so I can get girls gifts. So that's like the provisioning part. The protection part, and I'm talking about like very, very basic things that we can assume that men should do in a relationship. And I'll get to the women in a second.
Sure.
So like men understand the provisioning part, I think pretty early on, that y'all's social status is tied to your
Okay.
income in some way, shape, or
Wait.
form.
Well, okay. I'm gonna add a little thing, just a little thing, because I'm gonna fight you on all
No,
of
go
these.
ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying there, and that might be something a boy figures out early in high school. But and I'm speaking purely anecdotally here. So if your experience is different, you can feel free to tell me. I feel like one of the biggest complaints that women often have about men, especially partners, is they stop giving them gifts. They don't give them flowers. They don't give them anything. There's those like languages of love where it's like, oh, like I wish my husband
Yeah.
would just like even get me like a fucking candy bar or just like something to show me that he thought about me throughout the day. A little stupid fucking
Yeah.
$2 rose. Yeah, I feel like that's one of the biggest complaints I hear about women regarding men.
Yeah, but I'm making a larger point. Like you're not
Okay, go
wrong
for
on
it.
that.
Okay,
But,
go. Okay.
Okay, so at the base level, these teen boys, they understand provisioning. When it comes to protection, I don't think that that's understood. That men are supposed to do that, but I think that they will innately do that when we have things like mass shootings. Men will still jump in front of bullets for women that they don't know. And I don't see like a lot of men taking interest necessarily in combat sports or weapon handling, but they will still they will put their lives on the line for women. Now, when we have modern women, right? So the boys, they understand provisioning and then, maybe protection. So I don't think so these days. But when it comes to women, they're like, why do I have to make him a sandwich? And you're like, what the hell? Like, what, are you serious right now? Like, it's not even hard. Okay. It's like 2 slices of bread, piece of meat, a piece of cheese, you put it together. But we just like, we don't even really understand how to reciprocate to men. And I think men now are, called to do a lot of things that are unnecessary. Your man has to be your girlfriend, your therapist, your bodyguard, your what is it? He's got to pay the mortgage. And then if he's tired and working 40 plus hours a week, he's got to help you with parenting, like a lot more. And I just think that that's too much to put on a man. That's also why I favor traditional values. Well, I hate saying that, conventional values, right? Because liberal women got it in the 90s. Now they seem to have forgotten. But like for women, you're supposed to be working, okay? And then you're supposed to stay fit and then have a libido and take care of children. Like, how? And cook and clean, like, how? That doesn't seem like it's going to make sense. So that's why I have that complementarian view, that I think some things are very natural that we in the West, we like to play around with. But it's like basic in other cultures. Like, men
Okay, sure.
I saw
Let me
you
just-
eating earlier. Your wife made you food. I saw it.
Yeah, because I earn a little bit more money than her, right? So she does a little bit more of the household duties, but she also earns a
Yeah.
lot of money on her own too. She's very successful on Twitch. Okay, when you say learn like provisioning, when you use that term, are you saying that like men at an early age have to employ some baseline level of reasoning to figure out what they need to do to make a person like them, to make a woman like them? Is that broadly speaking what you're saying?
The ones that get it, yeah.
Okay.
They can figure it out early on.
Don't women figure this out really early on as well? I feel like one of the biggest like stereotypical experiences. Are you gonna say no? You can go ahead and
No,
say no,
my-
but I'm
my
about to
answer is no.
Okay, I'm about to destroy it because I know the answer is yes
Okay,
for this,
okay,
right?
let's go.
Right. The stereotypical experience in high school, especially, is how weird the games are played, where girls are trying to boys because they know that's what they want for relationships, and then they get their hearts broken because they realize that like that's not like a good way to get a boyfriend. But I feel like that's every adolescent woman's experience going through the early stages of high school is boys are starting to get horny and boys want things from me, and I know that if I give my boyfriend this particular thing, he's going to like me. And there's that whole back and forth play that women go through when they're growing up to figure out what's an appropriate way to engage with that. But I feel like they figure that out pretty early too, that a girl knows if she puts out a guy, he's going to be more interested and stay around longer, and if he doesn't, if she doesn't, he's going to leave, right?
Yes, but like this is what I mean by, propaganda, women are uneducated. This is so stupid. So it's like majority of women are probably long-term mating strategists. At least that's the position that David Buss takes, and I tend to agree with him. So like when we talk about promiscuous women, this is what I think the red pill gets wrong. They're like, oh, these women are just, they're out there doing it because they're, at the extremes of like social sexuality. And then, and it's all these women. It's like, no, these women are trying to get boyfriends to turn into husbands, to turn into fathers, but they haven't figured anything out past the box. And that's where I'm like, we need to have better conversations about how to get and keep the men that we're attracted to. But that requires a little bit of, accepting some gender roles as you negotiate them in your relationship, though.
I feel
different
like
men want different things.
I'm going to fight this a lot. I feel like what it requires more is learning how to vet things like boys, which is exactly what the red pill I feel are generally creating, are boys. Like ways to trick girls into you, ways to present a lot of value but never actually giving it, ways to juggle multiple girls at once but not actually committing to anything, ways of having these one-ended open relationships. Like it feels like the red pill in general is creating exactly the types of men that the traditional women that you're talking about would try everything to avoid. And they have to develop like really sophisticated strategies to get away from it.
Yeah, well, I would say it's like a conventional thing because I think liberal women just got it twisted lately. You think in the 90s they were like, yeah, how I feel about taxes is completely different than me making my family a meal.
Wait, I don't understand that as a response to anything I said at all. Wait, what?
Oh, no, I was just saying that I don't even. I'm gonna go back to what you said.
Sure, go for it.
I'm right there.
Okay.
I'm right there.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think the manosphere is creating that. Like, I think that we over amplify, overthink it. It's like when women are scared about incels because of who they see online, when your brother, your uncle, your plumber, your doctor, they could be an incel too. Like most are contributing members to society. I don't think that the red pill's, making players. Now if a pathological narcissistic man finds the red pill, yeah, he can do some real damage. Right? But if you're talking about vetting F boys, I think we want masculine men. But I think men are very feminized right now.
Hold on, wait. I don't understand. Hold on, wait. Hold on. I'm trying to. I feel like I'm hearing so many buzzwords, but I'm not hearing any actual sentences. We are trying to avoid boys, but men are feminized right now. I don't have any idea what that meant. I know what boys are, and I know what feminization of men means, but I don't know what that sentence meant. I don't know what that means.
Okay, so, like, I think at the end of the day, women want masculine men.
Yes, but what does that have to do with avoiding boys?
Right. So they're in short supply. So like. Kind of the F-boy, he looks like he's masculine, but if you peel the layers back, he's not. Does that make sense?
Are you saying boys are feminine men?
I think so a little bit, to be honest with you. Like, yeah, they do lots of like feminine catty things. I think that they're feminized. I think a lot of these guys that say that they're masculine, I don't believe that to be true.
Let's peel back this one more layer. What does feminine and masculine mean to you, broadly speaking? Because I feel like sometimes, before you answer so it doesn't feel like I'm trapping you, it feels to me like sometimes when I'm in red pill spaces, feminine just means like sucks. It's like the worst traits. Whatever is bad is like a feminine trait, and then whatever is good is like a masculine trait. That's what it feels like sometimes. So like when you say like boys are feminine, nothing about a boy seems feminine to me. That seems like a form of, in my world, I would say toxic masculinity, right? It's a lot of false bravado. It's a lot of luring and temptation. It's a lot of giving into baser instincts at the expense of another person. Like these are all like very masculine driving traits. I want to lay as much pipe as possible, and I'm going to say whatever I have to this dumb bitch to get her to suck my. Like that's like a very masculine. That doesn't seem feminine at all to me. But so I'm curious how you like.
Feminine as hell.
In what way? Like what women don't do that. How is that feminine?
Okay, so let's build the F-boy.
Okay.
Let's say that he's flashy with his clothes. Like I'm covered in name brand designer clothes. That's kind of like looks maxing. I would say that that's more of a feminine thing. Women are more, in my opinion, as a sex, we're more creative with our fashion. When I see a man that's overly creative with his fashion, I think that he's feminine. Like what you think is toxic
Wait,
masculinity.
wearing nice clothes is feminine?
No, like loud, flashy, expensive clothes.
So is every single hip hop artist feminine? Is every single basketball player feminine? Is every single male celebrity, black celebrity, white celebrity, Asian everybody, are they all feminine? Because they're all like very into fashion and everything.
So it's like give me an example so I can look him up on.
Actually, now I feel bad because earlier you said I exuded a lot of masculine energy, but it's just because I wear sweatpants and t-shirts everywhere. That's why, because I don't look smacks ever. Okay, I don't even feel good about the compliment now. No, but like I'm curious because like hip hop people always have like jewelry because this okay. If you get me on this track, I can go forever because I used to be like a Republican growing up. So I know all of the old things I used to say, right? When the metrosexuals came, guys that are spending all this time grooming their hair and putting on makeup sometimes, the fucking eyeliner that a lot of Green Day and everybody had, wearing jewelry, ear piercings, chains, caring about like your shoes and polishing them all, your tennis shoes, not like your like nice dress shoes. Like, is all of that feminine to you? Like anything having to do with like fashion or whatever? Because I feel like it's okay to want to look nice. I don't think that's like a feminine thing that men can't do.
No, like trying to look nice is one thing. Just looking absurdly flashy because you're trying to compensate from something that you're lacking from within. I mean, that's a lot.
But so do women? Do women do that?
Well, just like give me a second because I want to help you like understand my perspective on this.
Go for it.
Because that's why the manosphere, they get mad at me, but I think a lot of them are pretty damn feminine if you ask me.
Okay.
But so it's like what you call toxic masculinity. I think that's a feminine man. And what people want to talk about toxic femininity, I think that's a masculine woman. Mm-hmm. Like they're just simply out of order. We live in gender confused times that gets in the way of very basic polarity. When polarity, I mean, it crosses cultures and it crosses like continents, time even. Like polarity is a very basic thing. But we have like a lot of feminine men who somehow think that they're masculine. And women, I think when we're young and ignorant, I think we'll buy into it. But I've learned very quickly to kind of see through it. So yeah, like a lot of these hip hop artists, I would say that they're probably feminine. You know?
Okay.
Like I mean, I don't know. Gosh, like DJ Academics. Like what was that? What was that?
Wait, what do you mean by that?
Well, first of all, he got called, I think, like fat or overweight. Starts flaming the woman. Mm-hmm. But then what does he start doing? The shame, insults, guilt need to be right, ad hominem attacks. That's a feminine argumentation style.
Is it though? Hold on, I'm going to push back.
I think so.
Now you're in my ultra area of expertise. Okay, I'm a master debater. Okay, that's what I am. Okay, I got a PhD in online debates. This is what I do. Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody does this stuff. I feel. Do you not feel like? Okay, okay. Let me back up. There is a world. I came out of a conservative world, and I think that there are traits that can be feminine, and there are traits that can be masculine. And I don't like it because I'm a secular, non-traditional person completely, but I can respect there are conservative ways to talk about feminine and masculine principles. So a masculine person might be embodied by strength, the ability to perform, the ability to acquire resources for his family, the ability to provide and be a rock for his wife, the ability to be a solid foundation for his children. These are like masculine traits. And then when I think of feminine traits, I might think of somebody that is compassionate, that is nurturing, that can provide and be a rock for her husband, somebody that can participate in a community and be the head and the absolute master of the household when the husband is not there. That like these are the, like positive feminine traits. I feel like every time I hear red pill people talk about masculine and feminine, it is always through the male gaze. So masculine traits are all the things that I said before, and feminine traits are whatever makes you the best possible piece of ass to put my into. That's what the feminine traits are. Looking hot, making sandwiches, giving head. And then when we talk about, and then there's this whole other thing where, okay, now you want to talk about the real feminine traits. It's being catty, it's being it's arguing all the time, it's being flashy, it's backstabbing, it's being a snake, it's using venom instead of knives. Like, and it's like, holy shit. I feel like red pill shit is so overloaded. When they talk about like masculine versus feminine, the feminine traits are like, yeah, all these negative things. And it's like, there are a lot of things that, and then they'll ascribe to femininity things that men and women do, like being catty or being shitty, or I'll hear this all the time, being emotional. That's a feminine thing. And it's like, bro, how many people kill each other on the streets because somebody like stepped into somebody or somebody got mad at somebody or talked some shit? How many times have I seen a no jumper? These guys like jump across the table and attack each other over talking shit to each other, right? And it's like, is it really a feminine trait to be angry or to be emotional? I feel like everybody does these things. Sorry, okay, I ramble for a bit. Go ahead.
No, I'm with you. But I do want to say, like, the red pill did start off pretty good, if you ask me, from what I could tell. You can use it for good, you can use it for evil, whatever. You can smash and pass, or you can find it for a wife. But what you're describing is like there's alpha qualities and there's beta qualities. Like, you know how people call men alpha men and beta men or beta males, you know what I mean?
I've heard these before, yeah.
So there's like the alpha qualities, which are what you would probably call masculine, and it's whatever makes a woman wet. And then there's the beta qualities, which is just whatever's going to bring a woman comfort. Right? So like even the female orgasm could be considered, you know, a beta quality just because it's comforting. But that's if you go to like the OG. Okay.
Sure. Well, that's what like
OG times.
On Fresh and Fit, I think they say that like that you don't have to make a woman orgasm because it's just not part of like the role of a man or whatever, basically.
Yeah, but remember when you said like they were coming out and they were gonna make a bunch of playboys? That's why I don't think they're making a bunch of playboys. But I think like if you look for the good stuff in the red pill, you'll find it. There's a content creator, Ryan Stone. He's actually really decent. He gives men advice about he does case field reports. So these guys just tell him what's going on. So he's one of the few guys that will help married men, and that's why I support his content a lot. But he's much more nuanced than this, because you know some of the manosphere dudes, like, they're married and they have kids, so they
yeah, but a lot of them lie about some shit, or they say shit that they themselves wouldn't do. Have you followed the Donovan Sharp stuff recently?
Yeah, I actually I'm a close colleague with him, so.
Okay, well, you don't have to say anything about him, but god damn, what a slimy, disgusting piece of shit. Holy this guy spends his whole show trashing single moms and older women, and lo and behold, the dude married a single mom, older woman that he's like trashing on his show every single day. Like, I don't know, that kind of shit is like really up to me.
Yeah, I mean, so I've met them, so I can't really say anything, because like if
yeah, that's fine. You don't have to. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So he helped me learn how to stream. So it's one of those things where if somebody gives you the tools, you're like, you know, he's always been very helpful to me. So that I'll say. But so you were talking earlier about feminine and masculine things. I think everybody has masculine and feminine within them. And I think when it comes to polarity, if you're a man, you probably want to have more masculine qualities. And if you're a woman, you probably want to have more feminine qualities, unless you can maintain an attraction in your marriage as a masculine woman and a man that's like more on the feminine side, right? Because
do you ever worry that?
Yeah.
So this is something that I always run into. Do you know who like Lauren Southern is?
Yeah.
Okay, there's always something I run into when I meet certain conservative women is it feels like sometimes, and I would include you in this bubble, do you ever worry that you come off as like, what would you be in your world, like very masculine? Because I feel like you've got a lot of confidence, you're very intelligent, you're very well spoken, it seems like you're willing to jump into these things, right? But aren't those like all like, wouldn't you guys say those are masculine traits? Like, aren't you being masculine? But
yeah,
why? Don't you think it's like if all women could learn to do these things, like be assertive, like have strong opinions, like I feel like it's such a shallow or low like sad engagement with the subject of like femininity and masculinity, where like all of because let's be honest, when you look at the red pill delineation between masculinity and masculinity is awesome, and femininity is like the support role in every video game ever that nobody likes to play, right?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, they're not. Remember, you were worried they were making players. They ain't making no type of player. But no. I just don't think of these things as like good or bad. I find it to be very spiritual, and I don't even really reference it from the Bible. I've just noticed across multiple religions and multiple cultures, like some things are very natural, but there's things that there's some feminine qualities that are necessary. Like, I'll tell you an example of something that happened recently. So I'm pregnant, having a daughter, and my husband, I got him a baby carrier. So I shared this with another red pill man. I'm like, I got him a military plate carrier because my husband, he's in the service. So it's just, that's his shtick. He just likes the military gear. And some guy was trying to say like, that's not very manly. And I'm like, why would you and I told my husband about it. He was like, that's stupid. And it's bold of you.
It's not very manly to have the child stroll carrier?
Yeah, because I guess I should be, the only one carrying it. But here's the thing, is like a lot of these guys, they can't see themselves loving a woman and reproducing with her. There's a whole other side of masculinity in fatherhood that doesn't get talked about in the red pill. Ryan talks about it a little bit, but like I said, some of these guys, like, they are married and they do have children, so they understand polarity. Sure.
This is an unpopular take in my community. Did you ever watch the James Bond movies?
No, but I should. I think
Fuck.
those guys are hot.
Sure.
Okay.
This is a very hot take of mine, and I don't even know if it's true, but it was just a feeling that I had is sometimes it feels like being a dad is like kind of feminine and lame. And I thought it was kind of lame that in the James Bond movies, spoiler alert, I guess we haven't seen them, but James Bond finally finds out that he's like a father, and as soon as he finds that out, they kill him. So he never actually gets to spend any time ever being a father because he dies right when it happens. And it's like, it would have been actually really interesting to see, because it's very rare on screen where you get like a really strong masculine character that is like very strong, very masculine, does his shit, and then like has a child, and you get to see them being like a functional adult parent, father figure to the child. Because it always seems like the dad gets killed and the kid has to go on revenge, or the dad's gone forever or whatever. I'm thinking of like Rocky. I'm thinking of like the Creed movies, like the dad is dead in the ring. Rocky, I don't think ever had, or no, he has kids, but they're estranged. Like it always feels like you never have like strong masculine characters in film that are also like good fathers. Like that just never happens. I don't know. But
Yeah, I think that's not a good thing. I think we should see more of that. What's on the other side, and that's what I would like. If in a perfect world where, I guess the manosphere would get mad at me if Allie was running the manosphere. No, but real talk though, you want to talk about holding frame? You hold frame with women, that's important. But how are you going to hold frame with a kid? And there's a whole bunch of men out there because this is like a men's, help or whatever. How do you work with children? But I think that they're mostly focused on a sexual strategy for men. And my thing about it is, a lot of men are probably going to get married out of pressure because they want to. And I think a lot of men who get married, they want to have children. And I think we're thinking about these things, but we're not arming that group of men with tools to maintain polarity in the marriage. And I don't think we're arming women either, but I mean...
I hate the framing. When you say this, like, maintain polarity. Like, why do all the conversations about the traits have to be so gendered?
So I talk to a lot of married women, and I talk to a lot of married men. Basically, if you want to stay married, if you want to stay together long term, 20, 30 years down the road, what you need to be doing is having regular sex and not physiologically overwhelming one another in arguments. So raising... I
agree with that.
Raising respiratory rate, heart rate, blood pressure.
But I don't know what any of that has to do with like maintaining polarity in a marriage.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna get there.
Okay,
but it's like... How are you supposed to be having regular sex if you're not attracted to each other? And that's why you need the polarity. There's things that are special about you that only you do. There's things that are special about me that only I do. That's what you need. It's a yin and a yang. I know women, this is because a lot of the manosphere nightmare stuff is women are not marrying masculine men that they're attracted to. I have talked to women, I've had them on my YouTube channel, they've been married 20 plus years, they still want to have sex with their husbands. And so I know that that's a real thing, and that was an experience that I had. I've only been married a year. I know romantic love only is documented to last up to four years, but I have never been as attracted as I am to this man in my life with anyone else. So if more women, and here's the thing is like, I have been in long-term relationships before that didn't work out. I think that a lot of women who end up filing for divorce, they're just not attracted to their husbands. And that's the polarity that matters, because if I'm a woman and I'm more on the feminine side of things, why would I want to be married to a feminine man?
Okay, I agree with everything you're saying up until you get to the point of like the femininity and the masculinity thing. Like, I think there are things that we can do to remain attractive towards our partners. Now, you might have somebody that likes somebody to be like ultra feminine or whatever, which is fine. But I feel like there are certain things that you describe as feminine that not only would I don't want to be anywhere near, I don't think most men would want to be anywhere near. Like, for instance, when you said earlier, like, oh, like being like very catty and like that is like a very feminine thing. I don't think anybody wants to be there now, be near that, either men or women. Like no guy has ever come home and the woman is like, why didn't you take your shoes off right when you got in? And the guy's like, God, I love that she's in her feminine energy right now. That was just such a catty thing to say, and I love that for her, right? That's like, get off me, bitch. Yeah. Don't talk to me, okay? Joe wouldn't say this shit about me. He lets me wear my shoes anywhere in the house, So I don't know. I like, and this is one of my frustrations, and I always have to be careful when I caveat this stuff on my stream, because generally what I'll end up saying is I usually say, red pill people often give a ton of good advice for the worst reasons, and I run into that so many times. So like when you say things like, I personally believe that sex, it might be the most important like indicator of a good relationship. And this is, I could be wrong, maybe the data doesn't agree, but in my personal experience, I'm talking to people, seeing people, that if you talk to two people and they're like, we fuck like 2 to 4 times a week at least, that relationship is probably going really well. Most likely. Most likely that relationship is going really well. So like when I hear things like, oh yeah, like making sure that you're like having sex frequently, which in order to do that, there's a lot of other stuff that has to happen too, because chances are you're not gonna wanna fuck your husband if he goes to the kitchen and he leaves it a fucking disaster and he f***s the house all up all the time. He's like, oh, let's fuck, right? There's a lot of things you have to do to make that work, right? So I agree with that. But the framing is always just so crazy. And it's like, well, it's because men are in their feminine energy and that's why their wives aren't them. And it's like, what does that have to do with anything that we were talking about? Okay, go ahead.
Well, I would say, like, when I think about masculinity and femininity, I don't think about it in the red pill context of it, because there's a lot of things that they promote as masculine that are actually feminine if you look at different religions and you look at different cultures. So I have more of I also have a bachelor's in anthropology as well. I should go to grad school for gender studies, but I'm worried they're going to be too woke. But
I mean, that's like the meme, right? Isn't red pill is technically just gender studies for men, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I haven't seen that meme, but probably.
Well, no, that's because it's my meme. I made it up, okay? So credit me the next time you see it somewhere.
Well,
okay?
There you go. I'll put some respect on your name. But the polarity stuff, like it sounds icky, but it's normal, right? So, you know, if you can take it the red pill route if you want to, or you could just use some damn common sense. Women looking up to a man, that's romantic. That's what we see in a lot of movies. You know, she's shorter than him, she's looking up. It can even be like that Spider-Man situation scene, what have you. So you probably do want a man that is more successful than you, or is like as successful in another area, just something that you can admire. Right, and that's the masculine. That's like bigger, protective, sexy, and you're the demure feminine. That stuff is like, it's normal, it's cute, it's romantic. I don't know what I don't even think that. Here's my thing. Okay, so when I found the red pill, and this is why I like it in the first place. I'm a very self-improvement person. I wanted to be a softer woman because my heart was very soft, but I just had gone through things that made me very hardened, and I didn't even know how to do that. Right. Okay. So the first place that I heard that men like feminine women, I kid you not, was the red pill. I didn't hear it from other women, and I should have heard it from other women. So I took that bit of information, and then I started researching femininity more when it came up with gender things and culture in class. And then also I went to Instagram and I tried to see all the femininity accounts and tried to see like what hit, what missed. And I started doing like further research into that, more of a spiritual concept of it. And then what do some of these feminine actions look like? And I can see like kind of what's BS and what's not. But there's other things too. Like I felt very guilty and pressured to go to grad school. And I thought that I was broken because I'm smart. I mean, I'm not freakishly smart, but I would say, I'm smarter than most men. That's what my man told me.
Wow, very masculine. Okay, go ahead.
Actually, pride would be masculine, but that's not bad. We all have masculine and feminine within us. Like, that's okay. These things, they ebb and flow. But I didn't know that I could stay home. Like, I didn't know that I could just be married and have children and be a homemaker. And that's a whole option of my life that wasn't introduced to me, and I think I would have been very upset if I chose to do the grad school route. And it doesn't mean that I won't go back after I have kids, but it's sad that I had to hear these things from the red pill, but that's a starting point. You as a woman, you have to go and find feminine content yourself. These guys cannot do it for you. Women have to learn about femininity from other women. Can't learn about it from men. Same thing for men. Men have to learn about masculinity from other men.
Sure. So I don't necessarily disagree with anything you're saying. I think one of the big problems that left-leaning people have had over the years is we've deconstructed a lot of harmful gender norms, which I think are harmful. I want to be able to scream at a woman on the internet who's on the internet doing her own thing because it's fun sometimes, and it doesn't have to just be men. So that's cool. That's a victory. You're a shining example of victory of feminism. Okay, I like that.
Thank you.
But sometimes left-leaning people get a little bit crazy, and they're like, oh yeah, like I don't think female or male means anything. I don't think anybody cares if you're feminine or masculine, and blah 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 blah. And that's bullshit. Like I've been with some women that are very progressive, that are very exude masculine energy, blah blah blah. But like in a sexual situation, they very much want like a guy to take charge and do things, and like that feeling of them like slipping into that role is a very fun and exciting feeling for them. So you can tell that it's there at some like fundamental level, even if on like the outside they don't care about that at all. They seem like they don't care about it at all. So I agree with you that it's good sometimes to maintain these concepts of like, what does it mean to be feminine? What does it mean to be masculine? Like I agree with that. That's in there in a really fundamental level. I just don't think that we have to the broad sweeping of like all the bad things that are happening to men are just feminine, or all the bad things that are happening to women are just masculine. I think that it overrides the fact that in some ways, a lot of us are more similar than we are different, even though there are real differences, because it causes us to miss like a lot of the problems. So for instance, you gave the example of like women want men that earn more than them in general, because they like to look up to men. That is kind of true. But it's true in the sense that you look up to a guy that earns more than you, but you can look up to men in other ways too. It doesn't just have to be at the workplace. So like, here's a stat that I thought was really interesting. Women are more likely to break up with men, I think, when women are earning more household income than the man. But when you dig into those relationships, you find out what's going on. Even women that out-earn men in the workplace are still doing a lion's share of the housework. That like the guys feel emasculated and they won't even do housework or whatever. And it's like, well, no shit that these women are gonna break up more than. If you're earning the money and the guy's too lazy or stupid to even fucking keep the house together, then why the fuck would you stay with a guy like that? But people will look at those studies and be like, oh, well, this is why women shouldn't be earning as much money. It's ruining the relationships. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, no, this is why men that are staying at home should learn how to do the fucking housework. But then you get a lot of these guys that are like 25 years old and they don't even know to like clean the lint trap in their dryer or work a washing machine. And it's like, well, no shit. A lot of women are looking for men that just earn more or whatever, because for women that have stepped into the traditionally masculine role of earning money, guys can't assume any of the traditional feminine roles, like basic maintenance of a house. But if they could, if they got more into their feminine energy there, maybe those relationships would actually be more successful. The guy can still be like a Chad, he can be 6 feet tall, he can be whatever, but the woman could be working and he could like maintain the house in like a really positive way. But it seems like that thing never happened. So instead it just gets blamed on like false masculinity or femininity or whatever. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So my thing about asking men to do like the housework and stuff, first of all, I think it sounds silly, but I think people can get, a little bit like resentful. So I just like pre-prescribed roles. Like, I do the inside chores, my husband does the outside chores. And if I need help with something, inside the house that I'm sick or something, then he's gonna do that for me. And then if he's sick, I'll like take over. But I like that delineation because, sometimes a woman would be like, well, I took out the trash 2 times today and you took it out no times. So I just tend to favor that. But that's what I mean by maybe women need to be working part-time or seeing if they would enjoy staying home. That's my point, because that is really overwhelming, because on average, like, these guys are out earning women. At least that's the last time I checked.
That's true.
So if he's working 40 to 60 hours a week, and we'll just do the 40, because I don't think a lot of guys want to go past that. If he's working 40 hours a week and he's earning most of the money, he might be under more stress. And so he walks through the door like, oh, can you clean this? And I get it, because the women are working full time too. But maybe together we can find a way to get one of you, and I think I tend to favor the lens where the woman does this, where one of you can work part time or try to stay home. It's just too much.
Sure. I mean, like, I broadly kind of agree with you there. I don't think it has to be like, it doesn't have to be the woman that stays home, I guess.
Yeah, but it's not sexy to have a house husband. I think, can some guys do it and maintain polarity? Like, yes. But I don't think that, cause I think women get like a little bit vindictive. I think they'll be like,
this is gonna sound like I'm making this up when I say this, but like, this is gonna sound like I'm just making some blue pill shit up, but like, and it's so fucking cringe to even think this, but like, I've had more than one woman be impressed that I know like the difference between my fucking washing machine and dryer. That like a woman saw me folding clothes once and she's like, I can't believe you actually do that. Like, I'm not saying that it's sexy to have a guy like in a fucking maid outfit, like going around like dusting the ceilings, but I think it is attractive when a man can maintain a home. Like walking into a boy's room and he's a schizophrenic, like the TV is sitting on a pizza box and there's one chair that has a hole in it and then a mattress no box spring laying in a room across the hall. I think that is a really unattractive thing. No woman walks in and is like, that's so masculine that he like lives like an actual like Ted Bundy serial killer, Like
Okay. Hold on. Have we just like theorized that maybe these women dated losers before you? Like, have we theorized this?
But I think that's an issue though, because being able to just do house shit for a lot of guys is like some feminine shit. Like being able to like do the washing machine and like being able to do your laundry.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Because there's no reason. There's no reason why a guy can't do housework. He should be able to. If men can fucking conduct wars and lead countries and like fucking discover how to split atoms, they should be able to work the fucking washing machine, I think.
Yeah, no, I don't like that. But I think when we see men who lack in being able to keep up the house, I think it's usually a sign of an overbearing mother who just did everything for you. So like my husband is a very clean man. He picks up after himself. In fact, I would probably be the messier type. But it's like your man is not necessarily supposed to add to your plate or your stress, where he's just, well, I'm not doing anything. I'm making all these dishes and throwing my clothes on the floor. No, he would appreciate that you stay home and try not to add to your plate. That's like a respect for a role, right? So I get what you're saying, but it sounds like a lot of women are just dating straight up losers. Like, how the hell you don't know how to clean your house?
Well,
like, you
yeah,
don't know
but
how to
that's
cook either.
sure, but that's my position, right? That's where I'm saying, like, this is like, I think what a lot of women are running into is a lot of men don't get that house training because they don't need to, because like their mom and dad don't train them, because that's what the daughters learn, because guys are just supposed to marry a woman that takes care of all of that for them, and then guys end up not even be able to do like basic fucking necessities.
I think that might be more of you just having a conservative upbringing. I mean, I see it too. Like in the Latin community, there's some chores that are for boys and there's some chores that are for girls. But at the end of the day, if you're raising a useless child, you're raising a useless child. Like, men need to know how to cook and men need to know how to clean. That's bad parenting.
Sure, but I mean, like,
I get that the red pill is like, oh, that's not, like, it's not cute if a man does a dish. It's like, okay, so if we're talking about like traditional, if your girl is in her first trimester, you acting like you're not going to do some dishes even if you're working 40 plus hours a week, right? That's a tough time. That's what you're there for, is to lean on each other. What I will say is that women cap, on the feminist side of things, talking about is foreplay when he does dishes. And now, unless it's like an acts of service thing and that's her love language, I'm just like, y'all are just trying not to clean the house. That's what I think. I think that they're just trying to make men do things.
I don't know. I feel like having a person that can like take care of the house and clean shit up, I think for a lot of women, I think that it's not going to be like, oh my God, like my panties are dripping, but it's like being with another adult that's capable of like keeping shit clean, I think is a very attractive quality. Like, I think that as an older man, I think that's one of the big advantages that I have over younger men. That if I were to bring like a 23-year-old girl over to my fucking apartment, that like, oh, look, like I have like a full bed, like my shit is relatively put together, like I don't have a bunch of fucking like Pepsi cans like littered all over my fucking desk, and my carpet isn't fucking destroyed, right? They're like, having these like basic things down gives you a huge edge on other men in the dating market.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I was attracted to my husband.
Yeah, I know, but I don't want to be like personal, because you can attack. I'm not even attacking you, but I'm saying like
you can
yeah,
get
because for
personal.
you, like, it seems like, because you're saying that like, oh yeah, like men aren't all losers and have problems. It's like, but fuck, you had to find a guy that was like 48 years old to be like good enough for you, and you're like 24, right?
No. That's fine. You can say that.
Sure. And that's not a knock on you. I think that's an issue where like a lot of men aren't getting the training that they need. Like, people say like, oh, like women prefer older men, and then they try to do like some weird Evo psych explanation. I think the reality is just like, I think that women are taught and develop a lot more than men, such that men need like so many more years to even like catch up to like where they should be to be like a functional adult. That's what the feeling that I have. But
yeah, but if you're going to take that position, then it kind of gets into, women probably are actually more ready than we're willing to say to start a family at 17 or 18, but we just have a mismatch of society. So if we're going to take that tip, like I would agree with you, but it is sexy if a man knows how to keep a house clean. Who the hell wants to be with a dirty bum? Like,
True.
I'm sorry. Like, so the reason why I clean my house, number one, it makes me happy. It gives me fulfillment. My husband doesn't have to worry about it. And he seems to be really, really happy when I make a home cooked meal. Like, I used to think that the stuff about cooking for a man, I thought it was made up. And then I started doing it, and it's almost like an entire game changer, almost like an aphrodisiac at times. But that's for the couple to decide within the marriage.
For sure.
The problem is that we have a lot of women that are indoctrinated by feminism to never do anything for the express pleasure of a man, and that's not fair, because what if you would like for him to do some things for the express pleasure of you, right? We need to be fair and see what we're willing to do for the other partner. But my husband took care of me while I was in my first trimester. Like, obviously I'm not going to be able to cook and clean to the same way, just because that takes a lot out of you. But yeah, if young men are not being taught these skills, that's just poor parenting. And I would argue it's poor mothering, because when I've seen it, because I've dated as well, it's like the mom is crippling the son by doing everything for him.
Sure, but like, isn't this even an issue, and doesn't this kind of come up in Hispanic communities, where you have like the girls are kind of like taught from a pretty early age that they need to be like doing the cooking and cleaning, and that like the little boys are kind of like the kings of the household, and they're kind of like taught that like they need to go and get jobs and like find women, and like that's just kind of like the expected roles like early on. So
yeah, that's the problem with Marianismo and machismo, because we talked about the mom being like Holy Mother Mary, and then we have to look at, okay, well, what's the machismo side? It's like the son is almost like Jesus. and it creates a problem in modern dating. I dated a Latino man, and that was literally my textbook experience. He had the most disgusting room ever. But another man I dated, or I was in a long-term relationship with him, he came from a single mother home, and his mom was messy, and he was just like a gross individual. So is it something that I think comes with age? I don't know. I think it's a parenting problem, but that would be, here's the thing. So when we talk about modern dating and the problems, right? Women are statistically the primary caregivers, and I do think that we're culture makers. So when we complain about modern men, I think we need to be looking at mothers, right? But if I'm a if I'm a mom and I don't have much, I don't know, it's complicated because you can go the single mother route of it to where it's like, of course she's gonna put him on a pedestal because it's the only man in her life. But I'm with you. I'm not here for the dirty guys. But the red pill tells you to clean your damn house. It does tell you to do that. Ryan Stone, he actually just wrote this pretty basic book. It's called Frame. He literally tells men to shower because they do need to be told to shower.
But like, could you imagine? Hold on, but just think about that. Look at the goddamn state of men. Okay, can you imagine me saying some shit about like, you should watch this woman content creator? She's so good. Like, she tells women that if you want to get laid, it's important to clean your ass, right? You never hear a woman content creator, but for men, that you have to say that. Like, hey, it's not gay to clean your butthole. Like, what the like? But you have to say that to men. I feel like the differences in advice are like there's not a bunch of female content creators like, woman, it's really important that you like go to the gym and you look okay. Like, women learn that at age 8. They're putting on their mom's makeup already. But for men who are like 27 years old, it's like, listen, bro, okay, let's go for like 320 next year, okay, instead of being 350 pounds, okay? Or like, maybe you should shave, right? Like the disparity in life skills there is overwhelming, I think.
Well,
right?
Again, I think that's these overbearing moms, and I'm dying on this hill. Sure. I don't care. But in the military.
Sorry, go ahead. I'm gonna write that down and then I'll go ahead.
So in the military, I met your average guy, right? Because the military is kind of like a snapshot of the American population, just way smaller. It's less than 1%. And yeah, these grown men literally had to be told to shower by other grown men. But again, this is why I think it's a parenting problem. My husband even kicked somebody out once because, I mean, he's got that rank. So he was like, you need to go and clean underneath your fingernails and take a shower and get a new uniform. Now, I don't know if that's like a social problem or what, but yeah, and that's why I think when older women try to advise young women on modern dating, they're a little bit out of touch, because in the 80s, men were more masculine, and I do think that they showered more. I'm not saying that men are, knuckle-dragging idiots. I'm just saying this is where we're at.
Sure. I think some of your interests, you keep saying the moms.
Yeah.
But you said something really interesting earlier, contradicts that, I think. And that's that men need to learn masculinity from other men, and women need to learn femininity from other women. Isn't this kind of an issue where parenting is a feminine thing and dads are kind of totally absent in the lives of like educating and instructing their young little men? Isn't that like a problem with parenting on the father's side? Like, is it really the role of the mother to teach the little boy how to be a man?
No, it's not. So that's the problem, though. But if you're a woman who's not educated on optimal mate selection, you can choose a suboptimal mate who's not going to be there for your kid. At the end of the day, you did make that choice, and it's the kid that suffers. So you're correct. But what I will say is, so the fathers that are involved, they're involved in ways that they never were before. That's an old model of parenting. I think we're in because of this post-industrial society, we actually can have more involved fathers. Like, it's actually incredible to witness. I mean, I just love watching it happen. But that's new. But the red pill guys that have kids, they know that. Like, they're doing it in real life. They might not talk about it because I don't think it's relevant to a sexual mating strategy.
Do we ever hear that? Because if that was... So here's my another issue I have with red pills. That's
you should talk to Ryan. You should
but there's always the problem is that, like, there are all these really famous red pillars that are dipshit, like actual knuckle dragging dipshits. Unless you think that's racist and not knuckle dragging. I don't mean like that. But like, there are actually like all these like dumb like red pills. Or I don't want to say dumb. People I super disagree with, but there's always like, oh no, look at this red pillar, or look at this guy, or look at this guy. And these people are, not to knock them, but they're not like the mainstream like red pill people. And I'm sure there are some.
No, they're not. That's the point, right? It's
but then like if I'm to attack, like, so for instance, when somebody says like, I hate that progressives do this and that and that and that, I don't ever do those things. But I never tell those people, oh, just watch my content. I don't do that. Progressives do that. I say, yeah, progressives do that. That's why they're dog shit. That's why I'm hesitant to even call myself a progressive, even though I really am, right? But it's because progressives are so goddamn annoying in so many different ways. But like, can I truly say that like, oh no, progressives are like me, they're actually like pretty chill, they're not going to call you racist and fascist and sexist all the time? Like, yeah, they'll have conversations. No, of course I wouldn't say that, because progressives do that. So I feel like it's hard sometimes when I talk to, and was it Tori, was that the name of the other lady I talked to, where
the blonde, yeah,
the blonde, where very Hispanic thing if you say, where people do these things where like, oh yeah, I know that like 95% of the red pill creators and community say this, but look at this one guy, he's like way more chill. And it's like, maybe he is, but like, is that really red pill representation?
So okay, I'm with you. I'm with you on this. But even my content, my channel could be so much bigger if I didn't try to hold men and women both accountable. And I will say I do try to call out women a little bit more.
Sure.
I don't like that the algorithm favors that. I don't do it for the algorithm, but I think it's because we need more of a reality check here, and I'm just trying to like help these girls out. But like, these guys also, they know, like, the OG content creators. I think the red pill just got too good. I think YouTube actually likes red pill content. So in my channel, I got sick of the red pill for the same reasons that you complain about it. And basically, when I pivoted into more conservative content, engagement went down. And I don't think that's like due to the audience. I think it's due to YouTube and the algorithm. So I genuinely think that you should try it.
It is the algorithm. I agree with you, it's the algorithm, but I think it's because it's the audience. I think that people want to hear, and I'm going to be honest, like, I do it for my intuitive progressive. I hold men more accountable than women, right? Like, and I try to balance it out, but like at the end of the day, I'm calling men like schizoid losers more than I'm attacking women. And women have their whole own host of problems. It's absolutely true. Women are fucking insane, okay? And I would do that, but like obviously because of my audience, when I tend to talk about like the male issues more. But like, yeah. I think that people enjoy attacking each other more than they do like hearing themselves held to account. Like, that's not fun. And even when men, and I notice this happens in communities too, even when men are held to account, or probably women and women communities too, but even when men are held to account in red pill communities, they're held to account in really empowering ways. So like, if the fresh and fit guys are saying that like, oh, like, you know, they're never saying like, men, you guys are f***ed up, okay? You guys are like, you're not doing what you need to do, you're embarrassing, blah, blah, blah. It's more like, guys, you're not doing what you need to do because inside all of you is a goddamn Spartan warrior, okay? You're weak, but you can be the strongest guy on the block. You need to be able to tear a cheetah apart between your pecs, right? It's always like, they are critical of men and they hold them to account, but it's always in a really empowering way where it's like, I want you to tear me down and build me back up. Please, Myron, I need this. The fresh and fit guys, I'm like, getting off because it's like that abuse that like is really empowering at the same time. So yeah, I don't know. I think people just like, but like it's more fun at the end of the day to like shit on women and have women get shit on than actually be like, okay, seriously, like guys, you need to learn how to do like this or that. I think in general, yeah.
Yeah. So I get your point though earlier when you were talking about, hey, you know, we're talking about the red pill, but you're pointing out these very specific people. But that's because I went out of my way, I think, to do more due diligence and to look at, because my concern is, how do I get married and stay married? Yeah. And I just want to borrow from everybody. I want to borrow from Christianity, anthropology, the red pill, just whatever's out there. I want to try to crack this code.
Which I want to say, by the way, that's like the coolest goal of any red pill, because usually it's how do I as many people as possible. How do I get married and stay married that's a novel thing. I haven't heard any like red pill. So that's cool if you do talk about that, yeah.
Thank you. Well, Rola's been married 26 years. I'm like,
yeah, but he's also a cringe beta. He's the most beta loser of them all. Okay, fuck that guy. But anyway, yeah. Okay, so go ahead. So I cut you off to say that. Go ahead. But I think it's cool that you go. Yeah, go
ahead. So when it started, this is my understanding. This is what I've been told, and this is why I wanted to talk to you. And you know, no disrespect to Pearl or Torsia, but I don't think that they've really been that curious. I'm a very nosy gal, and I wanted to look at it through a cultural relativist lens too. So my understanding is that the space is 20 plus years old, and it just started with men on blogs sharing their hardships about women.
Sure.
Right. And I don't think that that's an inherently bad thing. I think it's never been done before. I do think that women might see it as a threat to the female mating strategy, but women say the same thing about what is it? Men say the same thing about women exchanging notes. Like, I've seen this gender war on both sides. I do think that we still live in a gynocentric social order. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
But when it starts off like that, it did start off with like men who were marriage counselors and men who were married, and some you know, PUA guys, they were all exchanging notes. So if you were a married man trying to figure out like frame and how to keep polarity, you could go and you could find that out. Or if you're a man caught in a bad way going through a divorce, you could figure out how to go about that as well. But it seems like it just got really big and out of control really quick. And I think at the same time, while the algorithm is feeding it, because if you look at the OGs, it's really not bad stuff. You know, I talk to these guys on Twitter, or the ones that have common sense. I think I have a wholesome list of red pill dudes. That's my opinion. But when the algorithm takes it, people don't understand the audience that is on social media. And that was hard for me to comprehend because I was just getting crapped on all day, every day. But the algorithm, especially on Twitter, I would say that's one. There's a whole red pill space on Twitter that is god awful, but
Sure.
it attracts the narcissists, the sociopaths, and the neurotic.
Yeah.
So these men, those are the guys that are flooding through the red pill. Now there's silent observers that are going out there and they're doing the work. Ryan knows about it because they contact him and let him know what's going on. And I think it can help men, but it's just some guys are just not going to be able to be helped, and they're just there to have it as a hobby, to where I get to dunk on women and complain about women. It's the same thing on feminist TikTok. They're just there to dunk on men.
To shit on men, like all men are rapists, all men are creepers, all men are, yeah, sure.
Yeah, and I'm more like, why can't we get to some common sense here? You know, but I don't get to typically have these in-depth conversations about polarity because I'm conservative or, you know, what is it? I think that's just it. I'm conservative and I'm light-skinned. Is that what I get? Oh, and I stay home. So people don't ever want to hear my opinion.
Sure. Well, what else?
Yeah.
Anything else?
I don't know. People like to bother me about abortion sometimes. I mean, if we're good to go, we're good to go. It's been 2 hours. I had a good time. I had a good time. Sometimes people like to bother me about the gays, but I think it's honestly just like clickbait. And like they're like, "Do you think homosexuality is a sin?" I'm like, "Why? Why would you ask me?" Like even Matt Walsh didn't want to answer that question. I'm like, please stop." Yeah, if you're good, I'm good. I hope I was able to shed some light on some things. I guess I would just say if you want to find red pill content that's going to help you to, you know, figure out a long-term relationship, it's out there, but it's not going to be popular in the algorithm. It's not going to generate a lot of clicks and a lot of views. So just be nosy.
What is we kind of talked about this, but I'm just curious, for a quick take, I guess. What do you think are like a couple things that women should be doing from your perspective to like find and stay in long-term relationships that they don't know right now, that they haven't learned, or they're not doing well?
Okay, so one thing is going to be the regular sex, because it gets hard along the way, and we don't want it the same way that men want it. It's cyclical. Like we are more sexual than men perceive us to be. This is true, and we enjoy more sexual variety than men. But it's cyclical. So just try to get into the habit of doing it regularly. You don't need to be on birth control. You can do natural family planning, which is just you track your ovulation cycle. That'll help you with your hormones the most, and because it can change the way that you're attracted to a man too. So that's one thing that I would say. The other thing I would say is learn your man, because I talked about how I cook for my husband. That's great, but some husbands, they don't want you to cook for them because they're working late night and the food sits in the car and then it gets gross, and so he would rather be able to order out and to not be offended by that and learn how to cook the things that he likes. Explore if you want to stay home or not, and see if that's a common goal that you can get to, and what would that look like. Do I have to reduce my cost of bills, things like that. And also, like, let your man lead. You know, these guys, I think a lot of men live lives of quiet desperation, not to quote Joe Rogan or anything like that, but I think that they do, and I don't think that they get recognized. And so just let him make some decisions. If nobody dies, okay.
Do you ever think that, like, when you... Okay.
Yeah, all right. You can do it. It's fine.
No, that's fine. Listen, I'm a high value man. I have my shit under control.
Yeah, I know.
My life
you
works
are,
really
though.
Yeah, no. Unironically, yeah, I know I do fit most. But like when I hear some of these things, if I ever found a woman was doing shit like this, I would kill myself. Okay, where she's like, where I'm like, I make the decision of how I do this, and then I find out that like I break into my woman's like phone and she's talking. It's like, oh my god, you should have seen Stevie today. Like I let him choose this just so that he could feel like he's not living in quiet desperation, and it was so cute that he thought. And I'm like, oh my fucking god, why are you patronizing me so much? Like, I would kill myself, right? But I mean, like when you say things like let your man lead, like. What does that mean? Well, like, doesn't it feel like kind of like a little bit like you've got like a big toddler and you're like, I want him to feel like a big boy?
No, so I see your perspective on it, but I think it's not even letting your man lead. It's just like, damn, he can't make a decision or time or two. Like, what do you have against this man making a choice? Like, what's your problem? Because I'm real big on submission, but submission is such a different conversation that everybody gets wrong because they all have their heads up their butts. But like, there's things that I don't necessarily agree with my husband on when he makes them for the family. However, is anybody going to be harmed by this decision? No. Has he ever steered me in the wrong direction?
Okay,
no.
wait.
So,
I have to kill you. Okay, hold on. I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, I have to.
Ahead.
Okay.
It's fine.
Okay. I want to get this out of the way, and I want to say that I love every single person in my life. I love all of them so much. Okay. I love all of them. Okay. Okay.
Submission, decision-making men.
No, hold on. Okay, I'm gonna talk about two people actually. Forget everything I just said. I'm gonna talk
Yeah.
about two people that have no relation to me whatsoever. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Man and a woman, okay? Woman is a rock star, okay? She ends up getting divorced kind of early on and has 2 children. But as a single mom, she's in the Air Force. She provides for both of her kids. She still goes out dancing every Friday, has fun with friends and family, super traditional, religious, conservative, tries to abstain from sex outside of marriage, etc. Handles all of her shit, does really well, okay? Like a champion single mom, okay?
Yeah.
However, she has with her kind of this idea that, like, she's Latina, well, kind of, if you consider Cuban Latino, she's Hispanic, kind of, speaks Spanish, all that shit, right? Okay, this is kind of her life, this is how she's put things together, okay? And that's how she goes through life, okay? Then she finds a man, okay? And in her mind, like, I found somebody to submit to. The man makes the decisions of the household. It's up to him. I'm here to take care of the house and the family, blah, 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 okay? Mm-hmm. But then what happens is this weird dynamic where the woman is very capable when it comes to making certain decisions about, like, finances or whatever. And the man is not always that capable, but because she feels the need to, like, subsume herself and be in this, like, submissive role, the household ends up making very questionable decisions because of that submissive tendency. Like, have you ever seen this happen before? Like, and where it's like the woman, like, if you could just, like, take charge on some of these decisions, things would be way better. But she's like, well, that's my husband's job, and I'm just gonna sail off into the off the cliff because that's the husband's job to make that decision, right?
Yeah. Again, I see what you're saying. I think that's more codependency, but then at the same time, it's like a man wants a woman. Well, okay, if you're gonna go for the masculine, feminine, traditional values route, conventional values, a man wants a woman that's submissive to him, not submissive to the world. Like, I'm wise and I'm hip. If my husband's being like off or weird, I'd be like, hey, this is a real problem. And I would like to think he has enough respect for me to hear that out.
Okay.
But I understand what you're talking. I haven't seen that happen yet. But, you have to think, too, like, maybe she just doesn't want to be involved, right? Like, people are allowed to be lazy, It doesn't look good. It's not
well,
a
yeah,
route
but it's
that
not
I
a
would
matter of
take.
being lazy. It's a matter of being like, that's my husband's job, and I don't want to interfere with it. I just think that's, sometimes I feel like there are, I've seen this happen
Okay,
again.
can I tell you one thing?
Yeah, go.
Yeah, I'll give you this, right?
Okay.
So, okay, because of the pandemic, now my husband, he works in medicine. So because of the pandemic and the way that things went with, the vaccine and stuff like that, and just all the misinformation that was out there, I have now become vaccine hesitant. I never thought that I would be in my life.
Okay.
I am pregnant.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
no.
well,
Your kid's going to be a
on.
measles baby.
Oh, stop
Oh,
it. No,
man.
actually, hold on.
Oh,
hold on.
God. Yeah.
I can't. You'll see. You'll be happy.
You just said stop it. You didn't even say, no, I would at least get that vaccine. So, oh, God. But sorry, go ahead. It's okay.
Okay. So, okay. But hey, I was open to vaccines, and then all the shenanigans happened, and now I've become a skeptic.
Sure,
All right,
of
this
course.
is where I'm at.
Uh-huh.
My husband, he works in medicine, and he has a very different view than me. But I believe in submission, not for fake, but for real. So a lot of these Christian women that are talking about submission, if their man wanted their child to get vaccinated against certain things, they would say no. So my husband, we've like compromised. I've never shared this publicly before. So we compromised on a delayed schedule, right? So this is what I mean. Like if I like, this is what probably from your perspective and your worldview, you're thinking, oh, that's good that she took her husband's lead on the fact that her child's going to be vaccinated. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well,
Whereas, like,
no, I would
yeah.
actually fight you to the death on that. No, I don't think
Oh,
so.
yeah?
If you're a vaccine skeptic, if you truly believe that the government hasn't been honest about everything, that there are side effects that the government isn't telling us about, that people that try to like blow the whistle on some of this stuff seem to be getting censored and cut everywhere off the internet, and there seems to be this huge buy-in that big pharma, Biden and the government, and all of the media are lockstep in pushing, and you really do feel that strongly about it, and you think these are bad, well, why the fuck would you get your kid vaccinated at all? Like, at that point, fuck your husband. Say, like, listen, I love you, but I have to do what's in the best interest of my baby.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, and it makes me scared, but I trust his decisions. I trust him. He's never like shown me anything different. And if we did have a bad season of marriage where I couldn't trust him, I was not able to submit to him. Like, I don't think women can force submission. I think you either get a competent leader or you don't, right? So that's just like, that's what I mean by sometimes it's just, it's just better to have somebody who has the 51% and the 49%. You know what I mean? But there's things that where I get jurisdiction too, where he like doesn't intervene. It's gonna sound like stupid, but like decorations or social things where I'm like, I think you need to be very wary about how you're approaching the situation at work with this coworker. I don't think you're looking at it from this angle. And he'll nod and he'll say, okay, I hadn't considered it like that. So, I mean, I don't know. I feel like these are supposed to be very normal, basic things, but submission is a choice. Now, people confuse submission with a kink, which I absolutely hate because that's not like anything that happens in my marriage. But like a lot of feminists, they'll have a submission kink, which is confusing to me.
Well, sure, but that's a totally different thing.
Okay, it's like we're not going to go over there.
No. I mean, like I agree, but like it's a different thing, right? Like master and slave can be talking about like a role-playing video game. It could be computer programming terminology, or it could be like black people and white people in the field in the 1700s, right? But it means a totally different thing, right? When you talk about like submission as like a sexual kink or BDSM, it's completely different than like submission in the context of like a relationship.
Okay,
right?
thank you. Because like for some reason it just always ends up getting conflated.
Sure.
But I understand what you're. I think here's the thing too, because I've seen you talk to some women. I
have indeed talked to some. Are pretty out there. But go ahead.
Yeah, well, you know, some of us just aren't that bright. Like some people aren't that bright. So I think where you see women feigning ignorance, I think maybe Gal's just not that smart.
Sure,
you know what I mean?
I agree with you, but it has nothing to do with her being a woman. That's what I'm trying to say, right? Some women aren't that bright. You're right. Some women are real dumb, but some men are real dumb too, right?
Yeah, of course, right? On average, the IQ thing, you know, it's at the extremes where we differ. But like,
because you said it yourself, you think you're probably smarter than some men, right?
And I think I'm smarter than most men.
Sure. Okay. Oh, there we go. Damn. Okay. Sorry. What were you saying? You said, I think I see you. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I've seen you talk to women before, and you'll think that they're feigning stupidity just because they're supposed to be the damsel in distress and socially conditioned. And I've been watching, and I'm like, no, Destiny, I think she's just not that bright. Like I don't.
Wait, like who? Like give me. Name some names. Let's hear it. Bring them out. Yeah, do it. Get in your masculine energy and start fucking outing these I don't need any hoochie, horrible women representatives.
No, I've seen it happen a couple of times with different women where I'm like, I think you're just over. Is your wife very bright?
I think she's pretty smart. She's not like a sciencey person, but she's very quick. She like understands concepts pretty well. Yeah. When I found her, she was like a 20-year-old lady like in a fucking bus like in New Zealand, and now she manages like her whole like online career stuff like across multiple platforms and multiple employees. And she's like, yeah, I think she's pretty smart.
Yeah, so I think that kind of biases you where you think, oh, surely other women are capable of being as smart as my wife. And it's like, no, like, probably not. So the woman that you're talking about, you know, who wants to just submit and like let her husband lead without thinking about it, like maybe that's just the route that she chose and that's just what she's capable of.
I wish I knew who you were talking about so I could put a name to this, what we're thinking of right now, you know?
Okay, I'll put it in here.
Yeah, DM it to me. I won't say it out loud, okay? Wait, can I guess for, Oh, I don't even know. Maybe I don't know because I haven't that much. Okay, well,
that was one. I think I saw it, maybe two other times. But so some women are going to choose the lazy route out of intelligence or just because that's all they're capable of. And I think that it seems like you want to quickly attribute this to because they're cultured and that's what the female role is. Where I think women are not being cultured to be these dumb damsels in distress. I think that's. I don't even know why academia thinks that. That's not my perception at all. I think the feminine, and I think Kyla. I think Kyla would agree with me on this. I think feminine things that could be valued in women are actually very much downplayed, and mostly the masculine things that a woman can do. That's what's being elevated right now. So we just have a difference in social conditioning. I don't think it's like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I necessarily disagree with you.
Codependency is real. That's a real thing. I've seen that with women that you're like, are you submitting or are you just scared to make any decision because you don't know how to have boundaries or anything like that? But that's a completely different conversation where those women just need help and treatment. Like I wasn't very good for years with setting boundaries. I didn't know I could. I didn't know I was like allowed to. So I think sometimes that comes with age. Or it doesn't, and you're just codependent forever. No, yeah, and you never live for yourself.
Yeah, I think that, like I said, like, and I feel this way with some red pill people that when we start digging into things, like I never agree with almost anything that you're gonna say. It's just like the framing sometimes is just so, in my opinion, wild. But no, but anything else?
No, I mean I'm good to go. I had fun. I think you're cool. And you know what? Like I'm gonna say it because I heard the way the red pill do. And, you know, you'll probably feel gassed up.
Which
okay?
one?
Just accept it.
Who? Which one? Tell me. The
Like all
Rollo
of them.
Tanubi? Yeah, that's good.
All of them. So
Donovan
they're like, oh,
fucking
Destiny's mad
marries a
feminine.
single mom. Yeah, fuck that guy.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
like Destiny's mad feminine, blah 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 blah. But I was like watching your stream earlier, and you were cursing a lot. But you talk like a man. I don't care anybody. You still talk like a man. You talk like a liberal man, but you talk like a man. So I was blushing. I was like, oh my god. And then you were joking earlier about your sweatpants and your shirt, but. I mean, that's like, my husband is like that. He's like, I don't care what people think about what I wear. I'm gonna wear these sweatpants and this t-shirt. And that's
What a
pretty
great
masculine.
guy. That sounds
Yeah.
that sounds like a strong man right there, okay? Stand by him forever,
Yeah,
okay?
the blue hair too. You know, that's not unlike Mystery, but like, you do your own manly thing in your own way. You're just, you know, on the progressive side, but you're still manly. People
Thanks.
just don't notice it if they don't have a comprehensive understanding of masculinity. So
Thanks.
there
I
you
try
go.
my best, you know. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what do I do? How do I leave?
Yeah, well, we can just hang out. Thanks, I appreciate it. If anything ever comes up, if I say something you disagree with, or if you want to argue or shout about something, shoot me a message and let me know, okay?